The boy looked deceptively innocent. His eyes were clear, so clear that no one would suspect they concealed a power strong enough to make the whole world tremble. In his past life, driven by the desire to return to his own world, Han Song had slaughtered the cruel demon kings. But the one who brought him down was the very person he had trusted the most. Ironically, fate did not let his story end there. Instead, he was reborn in the frail body of Dell. From then on, in the form of a child, he began a journey to gather strength to repay blood with blood and hatred with hatred. But darkness still lurked, and new enemies were rising in the shadows. Can Dell overcome his cruel destiny? To fulfill the blood oath of his past life, a monster with countless blood-red eyes was roaring in the middle of the sky. Under a gloomy sky in 2045, Earth was facing terrifyingly brutal creatures. Many soldiers who joined the battle had lost their lives. They couldn't possibly defend against those sharp claws. The colossal monster just stared at the fallen on the battlefield. But at this moment, a young man's face turned pale with fear before its attack. Is this the end? He dropped to his knees before those razor-sharp claws, as if surrendering to his fate. But who would have expected a young man to charge in, using his sword to slice through the monster's tentacle? It was so shocked it stared wide-eyed at the hole in its own body. Not long after, the monster flew into a rage, aiming its sharp claws straight at the young man. He narrowed his eyes and unleashed a flurry of sharp slashes, dicing the tentacles into pieces. The monster still refused to give up. It swung one of its massive tentacles toward where the young man was standing. He squinted his eyes, looking at the enormous object right above his head. The young man immediately pulled out a gun and shot straight at the tentacle. This person was none other than the commander of Earth's last defense force, Han Seong. He turned his head and ordered, "Get up. We're moving on." The person he had just saved snapped out of his daze. He quickly raised his gun. He then fired continuously at the monster while Han Seong moved forward carrying a long rifle. And now, after endless battles, only a few survivors remained. Han Seong, with a grim face, pushed his rifle back to gain momentum. He knelt on one knee, aiming straight ahead. Our target is right in front of us. Suddenly, a golden magic circle appeared, right in front of the monster. Han Seong was stunned by this bizarre phenomenon, wondering what the hell. Before he could get an answer, he was sucked inside it without realizing. His teammate, panicking a second later when he saw Han Seong disappear, turned and shouted, "Commander!" And meanwhile, in a strange space filled with chains, a mysterious voice echoed, "Answer the summons, Han Seong." He was suddenly entangled in countless chains around his neck, making it harder and harder to breathe. Han Seong, his body bound in midair, looked fearfully at the murmuring crowd before him. "I can't believe it! We actually succeeded!" So this is the legendary otherworldly hero. He glanced at the iron shackles on his hands and wondered, what are these glowing chains? Where am I? Just then Han took off his hood, approached and said, "Otherworldly hero, welcome to the Empire." He could only listen in silence to these strange words. The man stroked his beard, his tone earnest. "I know this is sudden, but I beg you please defeat the Demon King and save our world." Han Seong frowned, confused. "Demon King? What are you talking about? Where am I? Who are you people? This is no time for nonsense. I'm supposed to be in Korea." Han quickly extended his palm filled with spiritual energy as a threat. Silence. A second later, bolts of lightning swiftly struck him along with an incantation. The restraining vow has been activated. He controlled the magic in the air, offering a few words of warning. "Don't resist. If you behave while I'm being civil, this magic won't harm you." Han Seong gasped for breath, his eyes watering as he cursed inwardly. "Since when were you civil?" Then Han waved his hand and made his plea. "Please destroy the Demon King." He threw a sword into the magic circle on the ground, emphasizing each word, "and save our empire. If you agree, we can send you back to your world. Will you accept this offer?" Although it was a question after he finished speaking, the people here immediately stared daggers at Han Seong. He bit his lip, his brow furrowed, extremely troubled by the situation. Han Seong had no other choice. He could only agree. "Fine, I'll do it." And so, Han Seong was summoned to a completely unfamiliar world, to fight as the otherworldly hero of an empire. He worked tirelessly, participating in countless expeditions. Time and time again, Han Seong swung his sword, slaughtering hordes of beasts, completing every one of the Empire's countless missions. 3 years, 5 years. He sacrificed his youth to kill the Demon King. Was Han Seong finally free? Every night he dreamed of what he would do when he returned home. But then Han made another request of Han Seong. "I will tell you your next mission." He scowled from behind, resentful. "That's not what you promised." The man took a sip of tea and continued, "Saving the Empire isn't finished just by defeating the Demon King. There are still those who oppose the unification of the Empire. They must be eliminated. We cannot let the opposition rise. You just need to handle this one threat. Kill him, Badeo of the Night Kingdom of Teotonia. Then you will be free." Han glanced over, a smirk playing on his lips. "Help us out a little more, will you?" Although Han Song wanted to resist, he was restrained by the chains on his neck. What choice does a dog with a chain around its neck have? You bastards! And so the fires of war erupted everywhere once more. When will this ever end? In the Night Kingdom of Teotonia, Han Seong and Badeo were now crossing swords. After a while, he succeeded in plunging his sword into him. Badeo cried out in pain, I can't believe how foolish you are. He pulled out the sword, his voice listless. I had no other choice. I'm sorry, Badeo. The man questioned the otherworldly hero. Han Seong right. Badeo, sweating profusely, continued. Don't apologize to me, Han Seong. He slid down against the fortress wall. His next words left him stunned, because soon you'll be discarded too. Han Seong sighed, raised his palm, and mumbled, It's over. I can finally go home. But he didn't know that Brandon Bird was already behind him. Suddenly, 2 golden threads wrapped around Han Seong's neck, startling him. The old man advanced and plunged a sword into Han Seong's chest, giving him no time to react. A dangerous voice echoed, Well done, otherworldly hero. Han Seong hunched over, spitting out a mouthful of blood and calling his name, Baron Brandon Bird. The old man sneered, Han Seong, you've fought wonderfully all these years. You've served just like a hunting dog, a loyal one for the Empire. The great general and the Holy Knight acknowledged that. His eyes widened in disbelief. He struggled to curse, You cowardly hypocrites! So it was all a lie. You never intended to let me go home. Brandon Bird pulled the sword out of Han Seong, sending fresh blood spurting out. He questioned, Why would we do that? You're just a hunting dog that only knows how to bite. As his body collapsed to the ground, the old man gloated, Farewell, Han Seong. With hazy eyes, he swore to himself, I knew they wouldn't let me go that easily. But damn it, I'll never forget this humiliation. Suddenly, a bright light flashed from Han Seong's body. He held a grudge in his heart. I'll make this damn empire pay, with total annihilation. That night, one life ended, and another began. At that moment, a newborn baby opened its eyes. Cheers rang in his ears. Congratulations, my lady, it's a boy. The woman, drenched in sweat, reached out to take the tiny hand and whispered, My beloved child, I am your mother. Han Seong, now in the body of the baby Dell, looked at the couple before him, surprised. Who are they? I've seen these faces before. He squeezed his eyes shut as he was caressed. It didn't take long for him to realize. I remember now. In his mind, Han Seong thought, that man. Ellen is the most powerful necromancer and dark mage, the Black Duke. And this place must be the center of forbidden arts in the Empire. Necropolis, where the Black Tower is located. The one-time use stone of Rebirth has been activated. It was something he had hidden away, a forbidden item, prepared to break free from his dog collar chains. And the body he was reincarnated into, it was all fated. But he never expected to be reborn as the eldest son of the family of Duke Jackson, one of the most prestigious noble families in the Empire. Dell smiled with amusement. So I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth this time, huh? He thought of Han and Brandon Bird. When I grow up and master necromancy, I'll wipe out all those bastards from the Empire. Ellen seemed a bit confused. Wet nurse, the baby hasn't cried at all. She stroked her chin thoughtfully. That's strange. His breathing is clear, yet the baby hasn't made a sound. The lady was also worried. Could you please check his condition carefully? Dell pouted, looking exasperated. I'm not a kid. I'm not going to cry that easily. The wet nurse held him in her arms and checked him over. His breathing is steady, so there's no need to worry. Ellen frowned and asked, Isn't it considered a bad omen if a child doesn't cry? She reassured him, Don't you worry, my lord. But if you really want the young master to cry... The wet nurse gave his bottom a firm smack. She smiled brightly and said, You can just spank his bottom until he cries. Dell was stunned by the sudden blow. It was both painful and embarrassing. The other two saw his pale face and laughed. What a stubborn little one. He must have inherited your strong will, my lord. The couple looked happily at Dell. She reached out her hand and said, Here, let me... Dell was pale, silently cursing, You idiot. Your son is perfectly fine, you know. Elena then held him face down. She raised her hand high. Dell squeezed his eyes shut, cursing inwardly as he braced for another smack. But instead, she gently rubbed his tiny bottom, surprising him. Dell took a deep breath, feeling everything in this place. The moment the warmth of her gentle hand touched his skin, an image of Han Seong flashed in his mind. He suddenly remembered something. He lifted his shirt, tending to his own wounds and muttering, When was the last time I felt such warmth? In his past life, Han Seong could only be alone, taking care of himself. Now he was Dell. The soft, slightly trembling hand of the young noblewoman, his new mother, radiated a love he hadn't had for many years. Han Seong, who had never shed a tear since he could remember, could no longer hold back his tears. He sobbed, just as a newborn child should. Ellen sat on the bed and spoke softly. It's been 8 years since Dell was born, hasn't it? Time really flies. Elena nodded in agreement. It does. Is Dell still in his room ever since he turned 4? The boy has never been far from his books. He took her hand affectionately. He must take after his mother. It seems he's starting to take an interest in magic. Elena suddenly brushed Ellen's hair back gently and said, "Ellen, do you still remember the vow between us?" He thought of Dell sitting and reading, then replied, "You mean the promise not to pass on the art of necromancy to Dell, right?" She said happily, "You still remember?" Ellen affirmed confidently, "Of course I remember, my love." "Don't worry, Dell's birthday is tomorrow. I'm preparing a gift for him." Suddenly, a knock on the door made him wonder who would be visiting at this hour. Just then, a maid rushed in, shouting, "My lord, in the study!" "Young Master Dell, he—" Her next words left both husband and wife utterly shocked. Shouts echoed everywhere. "Dell." Ellen hurriedly pushed open the door and asked, "Son, are you all right?" At that moment, the boy was kneeling on the floor, magical energy radiating around him. Dell turned his head and said, "Mother, father." Elena fearfully clung to her husband's sleeve, stammering, "Dell." She rushed over to check him all over. "Are you hurt anywhere? What on earth happened?" Dell winced and replied politely, "I'm fine, Mother." Meanwhile, Ellen, with a serious face, raised his hand to check the spiritual energy. "I can feel mana spreading through the air." Dell is only 8 years old. On the other side, Elena was still extremely distressed. "Dell." While the boy struggled, "Please let me go." Suddenly, his father clasped his hands behind his back, approaching Dell with a menacing aura. "Were you the one who released the mana in your body?" The boy was terrified. "I knew father would find it strange. I'm doomed." "I didn't expect the mana to awaken so early either." Dell trembled and stammered, "That was," while panicking inside. "If I don't answer quickly, father will suspect my identity." Contrary to what he thought, Ellen smiled faintly. He ruffled the boy's hair and praised, "Indeed, you are my son. It's a shame that I can't teach you soul manipulation." This made Dell very curious. "Can't teach me soul manipulation, then? What about my revenge?" Elena, standing nearby, suddenly interjected. "The servants will clean this up. You should go back to your room." He sighed helplessly and obeyed. "Yes, Mother." Then Dell hugged the book to his chest and left. At the same time, Ellen approached his wife, Elena. "I've just thought of a gift for Dell." A while later, at Dell's birthday party, people in the hall were whispering excitedly. "The Count has arrived as well." "Well, it is the young master's birthday. Of course I had to be here. It seems all the nobles from the Black Duchy's territory are gathered here today. So when is the young master making his appearance?" "Right. It's been a long time since we had a banquet this grand." The host of the party, Dell, sat thoughtfully on the second floor of the banquet hall, listening to the chatter. "Looks like the party is starting later than planned. It's really lively." He felt incredibly tired. "I never expected so many people to gather just to celebrate my birthday. Perhaps because I got used to being treated coldly as a hero. The way they treat me as a young master still feels so forced now. But the incident with the broken table the other day still bothers me. I never thought that just remembering my time as a hero would cause my mana to explode so powerfully. No matter how I think about it with this ability, missing out on soul manipulation is a real shame. How should I persuade father?" I heard them whispering that he's already thought of a gift. Maybe I can use this opportunity to ask father to teach me soul manipulation instead of a gift. Right, it'll probably still be difficult. At the same time, Elena, in a noble gown, approached, waved, and said, "Have you been waiting long?" Dell happily called out, "Mother." She smiled like a blossoming flower and continued, "Congratulations on turning 8. Dell looked at the fully cloaked person standing beside her and asked curiously, "Who is that behind you?" Elena raised her hand and prompted, "Go on and say hello, dear." The mysterious person began to slowly pull down their hood. "This person is an elder of the Blue Magic Tower, a master of water-based magic, the sage Lady Sevia," Elena added. "She will be your instructor from now on." This surprised Dell. Sevia also smiled warmly. "It is a pleasure to be of service." She gave a wink and whispered to him, "Happy birthday, son." Dell was taken aback. "An elder from the Blue Tower invited to be my teacher, so that means Mother wants me to learn water-based magic, which specializes in defense and support. As expected, Mother doesn't want me to learn dark magic." Sevia spread her arms wide and said, "Dell, may I have a word with you in private?" He answered timidly, "Yes, Lady Sevia." Not long after, they were standing in a place covered in white snow. Sevia's voice echoed, "I don't know if you've heard, but I have been tasked with teaching you water magic. Don't you feel disappointed? There must be another type of magic you'd rather learn." Dell asked in surprise, "How did you know?" She held up a finger and said, "Wanting to learn soul manipulation, your father's dark magic, is perfectly understandable. However, the marriage condition of the Black Duke is known throughout the Empire. When Lady Elena was proposed to by the Black Duke, she was terrified of his ruthless reputation. So to reassure her, he swore not to pass his karma onto his children. I still remember the wedding day. The elders of the Black Tower shed their familiar black robes, and all wore pure white garments to witness that vow. Because it was a marriage, bound by such a sacred pact, you cannot learn dark magic for the time being. But I will find a way to persuade Lady Elena eventually. Are you willing to learn under my guidance for now?" "Sir Dell," he began hesitantly, But don't you feel apprehensive about dark magic or soul manipulation? And you're an elf, a race that always respects the laws of nature. Doing something against the natural order like resurrecting the dead. Sevia laughed. Interesting. What about the priests who save the dying? Are they acting in accordance with the will of nature? He listened silently to her point of view. Soul manipulation or resurrection. In my eyes, they are no different. Dell suddenly realized something. Sevia was far from the usual stubborn elves. Perhaps she will be a teacher beyond my expectations. She suggested, well then shall we begin the lesson? I heard that a few days ago. You formed a small fragment of a mana circle. The first goal will be to expand that fragment to complete a first circle, mana circle. Dell looked up in surprise. Oh, a first circle. Coincidentally, most of the magic books I've been reading recently require reaching that level to practice them. So with this opportunity, I'll be able to create my first circle. Sevia began her instruction. Place your hand on your heart and focus your mind. He followed her instructions precisely. Yes, master. Then Dell slowly opened his eyes. This place was a different world from Earth. This place was filled with mana. However, except for ancient creatures like dragons, directly controlling raw mana is impossible. Therefore, I need a mana circle in my heart, a structure like a filter, to help refine the raw mana before use. It gathers the scattered mana fragments around the heart, then assembles them into a complete circle. Then it makes that circle rotate steadily around the heart. Dell felt the circle surrounding him and whispered, I see. The mana circle is the pathway to engrave the flow of mana into the heart. I just need to do exactly as Master Sevia says. Outside, she was still teaching. Starting with the first step, practice controlling the flow of mana around your heart in a sequential and stable manner. Normally, this process takes at least a month, so don't rush it. Dell opened his eyes, looked down at his palm, and mumbled, Master. Instantly, a blue circle appeared, startling even himself. I did it! Sevia was dumbfounded, no less surprised, exclaiming, What? She watched those small hands controlling the mana in disbelief. A child who has just started training can create a circle in just a few minutes. If this child truly possesses such innate talent, then Sevia raised her hand to her mouth and asked curiously, Can you try releasing mana along that circle? Dell immediately closed his eyes, gathering energy into that circle. At the same time, he said, I'll try, Master. He generated a source of magic and thought. If it were ordinary children, just managing to release mana through the circle would be tiring enough. Just that alone won't be enough to get revenge on the Empire, and it would be hard to even keep up with the Black Duke. In my past life, I just used different ways to imprint mana onto my body, to cast damaging spells for combat. But this time is different. This body inherited the abilities of the Lord of the Black Tower, so it can absorb mana naturally. Perhaps I can learn not only water magic, but also other types of magic as well. A source of energy began to flow through his body. Dell reminded himself, all right, he focused. Channel the mana that has entered my body to flow to my fingertips and create a shard aimed straight at the Empire's throat. As soon as enough mana had gathered, he opened his eyes and pointed 2 fingers forward. The image of Han Xiong from his past life also materialized. In an instant, a gleaming sharp icicle was formed by Dell. Sevia froze, swallowing hard as she thought, generally, when mana is compressed in the body and then released, the shape of the mana usually breaks. But he crystallized the mana and created a relatively perfect ice sphere. Because he focused on the shape, the destructive power might be lacking. She watched from a distance, observing his every move meticulously. After channeling his power, Dell aimed the icicle straight at the trunk of a nearby ancient tree. Instantly, it created a dazzling explosion, causing the tree to split in two. Sevia turned her head, staring blankly at the ancient tree, collapsing onto the white snow. Tension began to show clearly on her face. Then Sevia glanced at Dell, filled with suspicion. Sharp and hard enough to pierce through a tree trunk. This is not the kind of precision an 8-year-old child can display. Who exactly is that child? Just then he was raising his hand, waving slightly, with a bright smile on his face. Sevia knelt and lightly touched the wooden trunk, marveling. Good heavens, I thought. The boy had only reached the level of manipulating mana. I never expected. He could release mana and incorporate the ice element into it. Even though it's just a basic spell, to be able to cast a spell that perfectly absorbs all the surrounding cold energy, like this. Dell, seeing her lost in thought, asked timidly, Ma'am, did I do something wrong? Hearing this, Sevia turned and smiled faintly. She looked at his apologetic face and thought, for an innocent child to unconsciously create something like that, the sophistication of his technique is truly extraordinary. Sevia pictured it again, the source of magic circling in the air, then converging, accelerating to form a sharp icicle. The boy's face before that spiritual circle suddenly appeared. These 3 formulas are the golden ratio of military magic. Sevia stared intently at Dell, who was pressing his 2 index fingers together, and wondered, could the boy unconsciously replicate and cast a magic spell of such complete lethal damage like that? Once again he called out, "Ma'am?" Sevia unconsciously raised her hand and stammered, "Ah, it's nothing." Now I understand why the Black Duke felt such regret. Not long after she was sitting and drinking tea in a large room, Ellen's voice echoed, "You're saying you can't teach Dell? Why shouldn't a child who can form a perfect circle in just a few minutes be the one most deserving of being taught?" Sophia interjected, "Young master." No sooner had Dell successfully cast the circle than he immediately cast a spell, a complete and lethal offensive spell. Hearing this, he was stunned speechless. She imagined a person getting hit by those attacks, and then explained, "It's hard to believe it was created by an 8-year-old. A spell containing the golden ratio in a military-grade magic formula." Dell's innocent face after taking someone down flashed in her mind. She stated firmly, "Your Grace, young Master Dell has a gift for killing." Seeing this, Ellen stroked his chin and murmured, "As an elder of the Blue Tower, a place that reveres non-violence, are you using that as a reason not to teach the boy?" Sophia took a sip of hot tea and replied, "Not at all." She thought of Dell's joyful expression, with the magic in his hands, and then continued, "It's precisely because he's like that I want to teach him myself, to guide that child down the right path." He frowned in confusion, saying, "Then there's even less of a reason to refuse." Sophia suddenly dropped a line that hit a nerve with Ellen. It made his face turn pale. "The Dark Duke's black magic. It seems young Master Dell already has a magic he wants to learn. I have also heard the story of you, the Dark Duke. I respect the promise between you and Lady Elena. But that doesn't mean you have the right to decide your child's future. For someone with such extraordinary talent as the young master, it's even more unacceptable. Your Grace." Meanwhile, Dell was eavesdropping outside the door, but he was feeling down. "I can't hear what they're saying clearly." Dell slid down the wall making guesses. "But they're definitely talking about me, right?" He recalled Sophia's astonished expression and felt surprised. "I didn't expect my first spell to be that powerful." Even Miss Sophia seemed really shocked. "I'll have to be more careful about controlling my power from now on." Suddenly, a shadow appeared right in front of him, making Dell look up. His mood changed in an instant, and he shouted cheerfully, "Hey!" Dell looked at the man smiling awkwardly in front of him and cheered. "Uncle Helmuth." The uncle just scratched his head and asked, "Huh, what are you doing here?" The boy stood up and questioned him back. "And where did you just come from?" Helmuth reached out to hug Dell and laughed. "Of course, fulfilling my duty to protect the duchy." He lifted the boy high up and recounted enthusiastically, "I just wiped out a whole horde of terrifying monsters." The boy guessed excitedly, "So you just cleared a dungeon?" Dell's expression suddenly turned pensive, like an adult lost in deep thought. In this world, dungeon outbreaks or monster overflows are matters of national importance. Ever since the Demon King's era, the damage caused by these monsters has been significant. So the knights of this territory must conquer the dungeons that have yet to be explored in the Demon King's former territory. Their main mission is to eliminate the monsters that spill out from the dungeons, especially in the Jackson Duchy, where the situation is much more severe than in other territories. He remembered himself when he was Han Seong, in his previous life, blaming himself. "And the cause of all this is me. In my past life, after the otherworldly hero defeated the Demon King, Duke Jackson was granted the Demon King's land and ordered to subjugate the monsters there, to make it part of the Empire's territory." Returning to the present, Dell looked away wearily, muttering to himself in professional terms, "They call it cleaning up the trash." As soon as he was put down, he told Uncle Helmuth, "Don't get hurt, okay?" The man laughed loudly, teasing, "Worried about me, are we, young master?" Suddenly, a voice rang out. What a heartwarming sight. The two of them saw Ellen walking out and turned their eyes towards him. Dell softly called out, "Father." Helmuth stammered, shouting, "Greetings, Your Grace, the Duke." The man folded his arms, looked over, and praised him. "You've worked hard on this expedition, Helmuth." At the same time, Elena and a few maids arrived. She said cheerfully, "Oh, is everyone gathered here?" The three men turned their heads in that direction. The boy wondered curiously, "What's Mom doing here?" Elena covered her mouth with her hand and called to her son Dell. She quickly bent down, stroked his cheek, and praised him. "I heard you successfully cast a circle, didn't you?" "Oh, my sweet boy, you're so talented." Ellen also added, "Congratulations, Dell." Elena turned back and winked at him. "If there's anything you desire, just tell your father." This sentence made the boy think. If I say I want to learn necromancy, isn't that a bit too scheming? What do kids this age usually want? After thinking for a moment, Dell casually said something that stunned the two of them. "I want a little sister," Ellen said awkwardly. "All right, I'll try my best then." The boy giggled, "Yes, father." The soldiers standing nearby couldn't help but laugh at the scene. A soldier turned to Helmuth and reminded him quietly, "Please don't laugh, Captain." Time passed by quickly. Soon the full moon rose to its peak, illuminating the entire area. Dell lay sprawled on his bed, grumbling to himself. "It's such a pain having to act innocent at this age. I'm probably a bit tired because I just used magic." As soon as he fell into a dream, his eyes from his past life shot open, filled with terror. It was the scene of Brandon Bird stabbing Han Seong. From behind, that came back to him. The old man's voice echoed. "Nice to see you again, Han Seong. How long has it been?" In pain, he couldn't form words. You! Brandon pushed the knife deeper, lifting Han Seong's whole body up. People are so deceitful, aren't they? How could you change so quickly? Are you happy? Living with your kind parents in that warm house? When your back is warm and your stomach is full, you must think revenge is no longer important, right? The old man radiated a murderous aura, emphasizing every word. The Empire will find you, Han Seong. They will hunt you down until they can finish you off. Until every trace of you disappears from this world. He was so terrified, Dell suddenly woke up. His breathing became incredibly difficult. At the same time, a mass of magic appeared right in front of his chest. It began to accumulate in Dell's chest, causing him immense discomfort. My heart feels like it's going to explode. Is this the legendary mana overload phenomenon? Dell clutched his chest with one hand and staggered outside. He cursed under his breath. Damn those cursed bastards from the Empire. Are they really not going to let me go until the end? Thinking that some cold air outside would make it better, he clutched his body tightly, panting and wondering, but why is it only getting worse? Suddenly, Sophia appeared right behind Dell and spoke. You seem to be in a lot of pain. It made Dell jump. He turned his face to look at that familiar face with suspicion. Miss Sophia. Right then she was generating a source of magic, and suddenly realized a mana overload. Wow, what a talented child. But I still can't shake this feeling of unease. Then Sophia stretched out her palm and gently touched Dell's chest. Her magic source directly broke through, the energy accumulating inside him. Sophia, with half-closed eyes, worried to herself. If one day this child's magic is tainted with malice, I'm afraid it will be beyond saving. As for Dell, he was still innocently looking at the small circle of spiritual power in his hand, thinking to himself, the mana overload phenomenon has disappeared. A moment later, Sophia called out to Dell. Confused, he looked up and answered, yes, ma'am. She glanced to the side and explained, the nature of magic is a reflection of the soul. Therefore, even with the same spell, each mage expresses it with a unique nuance. Your magic holds the power to take away life, an incredibly dangerous ability. That's why I feel so fortunate to be the one to teach you. Dell took the book from Sophia and asked curiously, yes, what is this? He looked at the spiritual power surrounding it with suspicion. This is a magic book on necromancy. She smiled brightly and said suggestively, I think our meeting might also be destined by fate. Dell naively listened to Sophia's wishes. Happy birthday, Dell! Suddenly he rushed forward and hugged her tightly, which slightly surprised Sophia. She laughed teasingly. You're still so naive and ridiculously cute, young master. A few days later on the plains outside the North Gate, Sophia stood behind watching Dell ask in surprise, a rabbit. She looked at the white rabbit and calmly replied, that's right. Remember the time you went hunting with your father? He quickly summoned magic in his hand. While answering, yes, ma'am, the white rabbit happened to turn and look at the two of them. It looked bewildered, unaware of what was about to happen to it. At this point, Dell had created spiritual power in his hand, swinging his arm back to gain momentum. He aimed precisely, then threw the block of ice, sending it flying towards the white rabbit, right where the two of them were standing. Mysterious sound circles appeared. Sophia watched the small hands intently, thinking to herself, to strike so fiercely yet his fingertips don't even tremble. Then she spoke. Dell, even with the same type of magic, it varies greatly depending on the caster. Do you know why, Dell? He answered honestly. I'm still not quite sure, ma'am, Sophia explained. Because magic is ultimately a reflection of the inner self. It's using mana to manifest what's in your heart. Therefore, in magic, one cannot hide the landscape of their soul. Dell was silent as a stone after hearing this. A drop of sweat trickled down his cheek. She closed her eyes and poured out a stream of words. Even terms like firewall or other types of incantations are just ways to help steady the mind. The magic of the magic towers is no different. The red tower reveres order maintained by strength. In the tower area, someone was now creating a blazing sphere, as if to preserve this place. While the blue tower values the order of harmony, the ideology each tower pursues will be reflected in the form of their magic. Depending on the principles of each tower, the magic system is established. Besides the red tower and the blue tower, there's also the black tower, the white tower and the green tower. After speaking, Sophia smiled gently, exhaling a puff of white smoke. But Dell still wore a confused expression, leaving her feeling helpless. For a child like you, it's probably still too early to understand these things. Dell immediately turned his attention to the ill-fated white rabbit, surrounded by his spiritual energy, and thought to himself. The most basic technique in necromancy is to turn a corpse into a slave. It's a magic that uses mana to allow the caster to control a corpse. He became very serious, focusing on his work. At this moment, a series of threads shot out from his glowing hand, shining down on the rabbit. The top of the spine, the right knee, connect the threads of magic tightly to those points. A second later, the rabbit's blood-red eyes shot open. Sophia, seeing his success, praised, "Well done, Dell. Can you proceed to the next step?" While controlling it, he replied, "Yes, ma'am." Then Dell put all his effort into it, creating ice armor on the magic's surface. A blue energy slowly spread from his eyes. A moment later, Dell slammed his palm on the ground. The entire area trembled. Sharp ice blocks slowly emerged, forming a circle around the area where he was standing. The magic power grew stronger. It quickly formed a solid block of ice in front. Just a few minutes later, the white rabbit was equipped on its back with a layer of ice armor with sharp spikes. Sophia commented, "The shape of the ice armor looks quite decent." She simultaneously created 3 small ice shards and said, "Let's test its defensive capabilities, shall we?" A dazzling flash of light immediately shot straight at the ground, shattering it into small pieces. Even Dell had to sweat bullets in the face of this power. It quickly flew past where the rabbit was standing, knocking it backwards as it was caught off guard. The rabbit glanced behind it and saw that the spikes on its armor had been shattered by the previous attack. Dell was happy again. He clenched his fists and cheered when he saw it was still alive. "All right, I blocked your arrow, miss." Sophia turned her head and acknowledged, "Good job, Dell. You did very well. It seems like you want to say something." "What is it?" He boldly said, "Yes, ma'am, I want to. Please teach me how to also use water-type magic more completely." Hearing this, the corner of her mouth twitched upwards. Sunlight also shone gently on one side of Sophia's face, but her refusal rang out. "No." It made him gasp, his face downcast as he questioned, "What?" Sophia held up a finger, winked, and sighed. "What you did today is just a very basic type of water magic, like all other types of magic. The further you study water magic, the more it demands comprehension, deeper and more refined. For a novice mage, learning just one element is hard. Enough! Using 2 elements simultaneously is called being a dual-element mage. At your age, that's nearly impossible. From what I see, you are far too greedy." These words hit Dell like a lightning strike. His jaw dropped and he let out a "huh." Dell thought back to when he was performing the spell and repeated those 2 words in his head. "Ambitious? I've shown so much and it's still not enough," he said dejectedly. "But you're the one who said you'd help me find the path forward." Sophia, caught off guard, hesitated at a loss for words. Then she used an excuse to change the subject. "That's enough for today's lesson." That night in the study, Dell was carrying a stack of books walking forward. He put them down on the floor, determined. "Even if I'm on my own, it's not like I can't do it. I'll prove it." Dell started busily flipping through and reading each page. At the same time, his magic power flared up violently again. Not long after, voices kept calling out, Dell causing him to slowly open his eyes. Sophia, now worried, asked, "Are you okay? It seems like you didn't sleep well last night, huh?" Dell lied without even blinking. "I was just preparing a few things, so I stayed up a little late." Hearing this, she reminded him, "Don't overdo it." "Dell." With dark circles under his eyes, he reached out his hand and replied, "Yes, ma'am." Instantly, a magic circle appeared, followed by mystical, magical energies. He once again controlled the white rabbit with its thick ice armor and the energy surrounding it. Sophia turned to look at Dell controlling his energy and noted he's completely mastered it. Suddenly, there was a vibration from the ice blocks on the white rabbit. The sharp ice shards all broke free from the armor, flying straight forward together. Looking at the thick cloud of dust, Sophia wondered. Ice burst. The white rabbit then sat still, looked up, and breathed out a source of magic that surprised her even more. It's not over yet. Suddenly, it transformed into a giant rabbit, with a sphere of energy right in the middle of its belly. The white rabbit immediately bent down and swallowed the energy source. A second later, a terrifying explosion erupted from it. At the same time, those ice shards flew forward again. Sophia, bewildered, created a shield around herself. Her eyes widened as she looked at the recent chaos. Countless sharp ice blocks were attacking her shield directly. This made Sophia inside even more panicked, thinking to herself, "This!" Not long after, Dell slowly walked up to her, but Sophia didn't know what to say. He raised his palm, creating his energy, and spoke. "Corpse explosion and ice burst. I have merged the 2 elements, water and darkness." Then Dell summoned 2 sources of spiritual power in both hands simultaneously, and asked softly, "Is this enough to become a dual-element mage yet?" All movement almost stopped after that trial. Dell's magic. Sophia, in a cold sweat, stared at the ruins of the spell formation. "This is a type of attack I've never seen before." She stood in the middle, analyzing. The combination of the ice armor from Ice Burst has made the corpse explosion create a much wider area of destruction. Not only that, the sharp shards of ice and bone stuck in the ground are like blades. Sophia walked to the end, bent down to examine the broken ice fragments scattered on the ground. She looked towards Dell, her heart filled with great unease. "This is just like Magic forged solely for killing like that of someone who has lived their entire life on the battlefield. What on earth does this child's heart look like? Dell turned back, his eyes filled with a terrifying huh sound. As soon as he saw Helmuth, he joyfully called out, "Uncle Helmuth!" The man raised his hand high to greet them. "Young Master, Miss Sophia." Seeing the military uniform, Dell asked curiously, "Did you just conquer another dungeon?" Helmuth excitedly showed off his achievement. "This time we just eliminated a small-scale group of monsters." The Black Armor Knights had quite a tough time. The image of Jackson appeared full of power. The Black Knights Order, the invincible army of Duke Jackson. They control the battlefield with their aura-infused spear techniques. Figures appeared and disappeared in a flash, and their commander, Knight Helmuth, is one of the 7 swords of the 6 lands. Dell clasped his hands joyfully and reminded him, "You still remember you promised to teach me swordsmanship, right?" In his head, he was thinking, to be taught the sword by someone like him is an unparalleled honor. Helmuth burst out laughing. "You're always welcome." He scratched his head with delight. "Goodbye, Uncle." "See you soon then, Uncle Helmuth." Without talking much longer, Helmuth said goodbye to them and headed back. "All right. It's cold. You should go inside, young master, before you catch a chill." Sophia looked towards the castle and told him, "We should head back too." Dell smiled and nodded in agreement. "Yes, master?" That evening, the conversation began. "What do you mean by that, Miss Sophia?" She stated blankly, "I am only speaking the truth. Young Master Dell has completely mastered both arts, necromancy and water magic. Furthermore, the boy has reached the first circle of magic, a single magic circle." Ellen rested his chin on his hand, troubled. "Miss Sophia, we clearly only asked you to teach the child." As if anticipating the rest of the sentence, Sophia told him, "Yes, to teach only water magic. But as a master, I only want to teach what the child desires to learn." As I said, what Dell wants is not just water magic. The atmosphere fell silent. It took a moment for Elena to speak. "So if Dell wishes, may we continue to have you guide him in water magic?" Sophia bowed respectfully, accepting the offer. "Of course. Then I will continue to help him in the future." Elena replied politely, "Yes, thank you." After finishing their discussion, she quickly left. But before leaving completely, Sophia stopped to apologize. "I sincerely apologize for forcing you, my lady, to break the Dark Duke's pact." After she had left, Elena stretched and exclaimed in admiration, "Our boy is truly extraordinary. At only 8 years old, he's already a dual-element mage. Sometimes he even gives me the chills. But that's my son, all right." Ellen, looking dizzy, glanced at her and called softly, "Elena." He bowed his head dejectedly and expressed his wish, seeking her opinion. "I want to pass on necromancy to Dell. As a lord, I want the boy to be strong enough to bear the responsibility of succession. And as a mage, I want a worthy disciple. And as a father, I just want to pass on everything I have to my son." Ellen held his head in sorrow over the mistake in his decision this time. "I'm truly sorry, my lady." Elena was very worried because of the heavy weight of social opinion. But people still look at necromancy with disdain and fear. Everyone whispers that it's the magic of death. That's the only reason I stopped you. So please train our son to be a mage, strong enough to make them shut their mouths. The deep meaning in her words silenced Ellen. "Do you understand?" Immediately after, Ellen hugged Elena tenderly. "I understand, my lady. I will give it my all to make our son the strongest." And so the first day of the special necromancy training began. Right off the bat, Dell was reprimanded. "I'm disappointed, Dell. You're still summoning without understanding what you're controlling." Dell pouted and argued back in his head. "But that's all my master taught me." In the basement of Jackson Castle, the Dark Duke's magic room. As soon as Dell had demonstrated what he had learned from his master, Ellen just clicked his tongue and immediately brought him here. Ellen pointed and ordered strictly, "Once you are under my tutelage, never perform such crude magic again. Start by memorizing the entire skeletal and muscular structure of all living beings. Do you understand?" Dell shivered. Though reluctant, he didn't dare to argue, "Yes, father. The books that father gave me, even in my past life, only medical specialists would have read them. And after a few days, I've memorized every single word." After the test was completed, Ellen closed the book. "It seems the basics are done, Dell. Now we can start combat training. We will begin the real training." Dell eagerly followed, "Yes, father." A moment later, the smile quickly vanished from his face. Dell couldn't believe his eyes and wondered, "Is this the corpse of a goblin?" After observing for the moment, Ellen smiled faintly and reminded him, "You seem quite confused. A weak practitioner of black magic can only make the corpse of a swordmaster move at the level of a zombie. Conversely, a truly skilled practitioner can turn an ordinary soldier into a death knight. Now here is an ordinary corpse soldier. How do you intend to control it?" The goblin lay there silently regardless of what was happening. Dell opened a magic circle, his mind in turmoil. His face began to scrunch up. It seemed a bit difficult. Dell struggled to connect the small threads. Unlike the rabbit with its small body and few bones, A goblin walks on two legs. There are too many joints to connect with magic threads. So annoying. When everything was finally connected, the goblin moved, lurching forward under his control. Damn it, it's like controlling a puppet with tangled strings. I must have been wrong to use post-mortem rigidity to increase its defense. Now the joints and muscles are stiff and can't move anymore. In a situation like this, what's the right thing to do? Seeing him in a state of panic, Ellen had to step in and stop him. Dell, your idea of stimulating the corpse to stiffen its body wasn't bad, but it also restricts the body's movement too much, unnecessarily. With that, he demonstrated for him. Watch this. Ellen only needed to lightly raise his magic, and it spread to envelop the goblin in front of him. Dell was stunned as he witnessed such a magnificent scene. Ellen's magic threads were infiltrating its body. He made the skeleton expand, saying, "The ribs on the goblin's side are bulging, the part used to protect internal organs." As he spoke, Ellen pushed the magic deeper. But for the dead, with the skeleton emerging from its arm, he stated firmly, "What need is there to protect internal organs anymore? Understand the structure of the subject, and modify it into a form that suits your purpose." Dell's jaw dropped in terror at the organs, but with this freaky kind of magic, he casually destroyed the goblin and wrapped it up with a single line. That's the basics of magic hacking. Dell lowered his head as if he had something to say. "Father, please tell me, what is the spirit that the Black Tower pursues?" Ellen gave a mysterious but satisfied smile. He gently bowed his head, the magic in his hand still lingering. "It's truth." Ellen knelt, placing a hand on Dell's shoulder. "And truth is always found in death." The more he spoke, the more resolute his gaze became. "Therefore, we must understand it, to be able to touch that truth. You must understand the weight of a life." Suddenly, memories of his past life flooded back. Just as the battle was about to end, an innocent-looking civilian was begging him, "Please spare me. I beg you, brave hero." He coldly raised his sword. "Please let me live." And then, without any mercy, he punched their ticket. Ellen's voice called out, "Dell." Seeing the boy's troubled expression, he grew a little worried. "Are you all right?" Despite Ellen's question, Dell remained standing there, zoned out. "You look pale." The memory made him shudder, so it took a moment for Dell to speak up. "Yes," he said to reassure him, "I'm fine, Father. I'm perfectly fine." And so time flew by. As Dell's magic training gradually improved day by day, the news that Duke Saxon had passed on the dark arts to Dell spread throughout the entire empire. The fact that Duke Saxon had broken a vow from many years ago sent major shockwaves. Since he was the reason the Duke broke his vow, both the nobility and the commoners of the empire turned their attention toward him. One day like any other, Dell was diligently practicing his swordsmanship. A few weeks later at the ducal estate's training ground, Dell pushed himself, sparring intensely with Helmut. Every move he made was precise, which delighted Helmut. Both sides strove to execute flawless attacks. Their blades flowed one after another. After a moment, the most intense clash of the fight occurred. Dell flexed his muscles. Across from him, Helmut also raised his sword, refusing to back down. He swung, but luckily Dell dodged just in time. Seizing the opportunity, he moved in and knocked the sword from Helmut's hand. His uncle turned his head to watch it. His face couldn't hide his surprise. The sword was sent flying with such force that it stuck fast in the ground when it landed. Helmut wasn't a sore loser. He quickly conceded. "Well played, young master." Of course, Dell didn't buy it. "How could a swordsman like you drop your sword?" Wiping away his sweat, he guessed, "You let it go on purpose, didn't you?" Helmut picked up his sword, denying it. "Of course not. Because the young master was using his swordsmanship in a real fight." "Really? An ordinary person would have been dead from the first strike. The young master's swordsmanship is too exceptional. It's a real shame you're a mage. Since mages always have guardian knights by their side, the young master doesn't actually need to train this hard. Is there a reason you do this? You don't have to push yourself to the point of injury like this." Dell looked at his bandaged arm and said decisively, "Of course there is. A duke's son who only knows how to rely on guards or protectors isn't cool at all." "Right." That was just the secondary reason. In reality, he was thinking, besides, who would pass up the chance to learn swordsmanship directly from one of the continent's 7 great swordmasters? Hearing those confident words, Helmut laughed with delight. He ran a hand through his hair and burst out laughing, praising him. "Well said. If I had a son like the young master, I'd probably have no regrets." Dell was overjoyed to hear that, so I finally earned his praise. Just then the rustle of someone's dress announced their arrival. It was Elena. She called out, "You two seem to be having fun." Dell beamed and cried out, "Mother, what brings you here?" Elena smiled gently and said, "I wanted to see how hard my son was working." After a moment's pause, she got to the main point. "Also, I have some news to tell you." He asked curiously, "What news?" Elena hinted by asking him a question in return. "Do you remember the birthday present you once asked for?" Dell rubbed his chin, thinking of the large gift box she had brought. "My birthday present, I only have a vague memory. What was it?" Suddenly, he remembered his previous request. I want a little sister. Thanks to that, he understood what Elena was trying to say. Seeing this, she rubbed her belly expectantly. Well, you'll have to take good care of your little sister then. Dell clasped his hands, his eyes shining with excitement. Yes, of course. Time passed so quickly. Before he knew it, 10 months had gone by. Dell kept poking the baby girl's cheek, which delighted his mother. Are you that smitten with her? He didn't hesitate to say, Yes, I am. I can't believe this is my little sister. Dell stared at the baby girl, unable to look away. She's unbearably cute. Seeing this, Elena suggested, Do you want to try holding her? Although Dell really wanted to, he was still a bit hesitant. Me. She slowly placed the baby in Dell's arms. Come now, don't be shy. Holding a baby isn't hard. Even Ellen had to admit. Actually, once I held her, I found it wasn't as hard as I thought. So she looks just like you, doesn't she? Seeing the baby's bright smile, Elena was a bit excited. That's strange. Every time I hold her, she cries. But she doesn't cry at all when you hold her. She seems very happy, Dell. Dell smiled gently, looking at the tiny, living being in his arms. Suddenly, Ellen walked over and asked, How do you feel now? Dell honestly shared his feelings. She's as light as a feather, but so heavy, Father. Ellen smiled gently. A feeling of serenity filled the room. That is the weight of a life. He placed a hand on his son's shoulder, reminding him, Never forget that. Dell, I suppose it's time for your lesson. Let's go, Dell. Master Sevia must be waiting for you. Sevia smiled and gave him a brief overview. Today's lesson is combat training. Dell was timid and a bit hesitant. Am I really allowed to fight for real? Sevia encouraged him. Don't hesitate. Attack me with everything you've got. He began to summon a magic circle. Understood, Master. Sevia also created a small magic orb ready to fight. Let's see how much you've improved. He started with sharp icicles that shot quickly toward her. Sevia casually swatted them all away with a single gesture. Your first attack. I was too slow. She taunted him while batting away the ice shards. How dare you? She picked up a broken piece of ice, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Are you going easy on your master? Seeing this, Dell took a few steps back. Cold sweat trickled down his cheek. Sevia threw the piece of ice toward him. Put up a barrier now, she ordered. Dell's face twisted in fear at her terrifying killing intent. The attack flew. In an instant, it radiated immense power. Dell looked down in fear at his frozen knee and hand. If I hadn't blocked that in time, I would have been seriously injured. Sevia was extremely excited when she saw this. To create ice armor in such a short moment. Dell quickly retracted his magic and the ice armor fell away. She nodded and requested good. Dell, continue your attack. He placed a hand on the ground and recited the spell's name. Mixed element combination ice castle formation. As he spoke the incantation, Dell erected an ice castle. The castle, tall and sturdy, rose up right before Sevilla's eyes. Confused, she let out a soft sound. Casting ice castle in the middle of a battle. By strengthening the magic structure, he's raised the ice's density to an incredible level. Sevilla lightly touched it, curious. But why use a defensive spell right now? Does he need a break after my last attack? As she was lost in thought, something caught her attention. A sound came from the other side of the massive ice wall. A bright light flashed as the spell was chanted. Detonate on top of the ice wall. Sevilla was stunned for a moment, trying to process what was happening. She froze. A bead of sweat trickled down her confused face. The ice grenade magic exploded from it, enveloping Sevilla's body. After the explosion ended, the ice wall came down. Success! Dell had made the ice wall even denser, and then made it explode. The ice molecules, which had already been enhanced before being compressed, then turned into an ice bomb. Dell thought to himself excitedly, That's gonna be hard to dodge, Master. But then the sight before him made him cry out in fear. Master. Her whole body was cracked, almost frozen solid with holes punched through by ice shards. Master Sevilla. But then she suddenly appeared from behind. Were you calling for me, Dell? He let out a sigh of relief. You scared me. So that was just an illusion. Sevilla snapped her fingers, melting the ice off the dummy. A terrifying skill, she remarked. I can't believe a mere Tier 1 mage could injure an elder of the magic tower. Dell bowed his head, sad and remorseful. I never intended to hurt you, Master. Sevilla smiled gently to reassure him. I know. Actually, I'm glad you managed to injure me. You believed that I was strong enough for you to go all out, right as your master. That makes me prouder than any other compliment. Hearing that, his worries eased a bit. Really? She confirmed it decisively. Of course, you are an outstanding student. But how did you come up with that magic formula? Dell smiled humbly. It's all thanks to your guidance, Master. She smiled warmly, looking at him with affection. A while later, in Ellen's private room, Lady Sevilla, what happened to the wound on your cheek? She gently touched it and praised Dell. Oh, this? I was just careless while teaching the young master. His formulas are exceptionally sharp. He sighed, frustrated. I am indebted to you again, Lady Sevilla. She shook her head, refusing the credit. Not at all. Teaching such a talented student is a pleasure for me as well. Ellen spoke seriously and clearly to Sevilla. May I ask one more favor of you? Sevilla was always ready to accept his requests. Yes, please speak. Ellen recalled the beasts as he explained. We've received reports of an orc horde that has crossed the mountains into our territory. A small cavalry unit can't handle them. The atmosphere around Sevilla darkened upon hearing the news. However, I intend to have Dell participate in this battle. Sevilla immediately stood up to protect the young master. Dell isn't ready. Ellen quickly reasoned, on the front lines, you're never truly ready. In any case, protecting the territory is the duty of House Saxon. As the ducal heir, the boy must understand that responsibility. Dell cannot be an exception. Sevilla could do nothing but obey. What do you need me to do? Before answering that question, Ellen needed to say one thing first. I will entrust Dell with my artifact. I want you, Lady Sevilla, to guide the boy until he can control its power. The rings appeared representing mystery, an artifact, an item imbued with immense power and will. Ellen's powerful image said it all. It can only be used when charged with mana or life force. The more powerful the artifact, the more dangerous and difficult it is to control. In some cases, it can even be fatal. In front of the Saxon family's artifact vault, Ellen explained to Dell, the House of Saxon has mastered this kind of power for a long time. Dell as the ducal heir. You must also prepare for the upcoming battle. Hearing this, his eyes widened in surprise. A battle that's awesome. Ellen nodded and clarified Dell's mission. Yes, you will accompany the subjugation force to eliminate the orcs. Arriving before a large door, he instructed him. But before that, you must learn to control the dark power of our family. As soon as he stepped inside, Dell's face was filled with surprise. Ellen gave Dell a general overview of them. Look, these are the Demon King's artifacts that our family manages. They have been here since the time of our ancestors, when we conquered the Demon King's domain. Don't compare them to ordinary artifacts. He looked around, unable to hide his excitement. I can feel the powerful flow of mana from them. He nodded, satisfied to hear his son say that. That's right. The items here are all extremely powerful and dangerous. Until you learn to control them, don't touch anything. Carelessly. But when he turned back, it seemed his son had already wandered off. Oh no, Dell. Ellen searched frantically, unaware that he was right behind him. Where did he go? A moment earlier, Dell had taken a stroll around thinking, I need an artifact that suits me. Suddenly a voice emanated from a nearby shield. You there? You have a grudge you're dying to settle. Don't you? I can feel that hatred. Other artifacts chimed in, inviting Dell. Come, let's go kill them together. Come over here, choose me, you coward! Choose me. Let's explore new depths together. He touched his chest. I guess these dark artifacts are resonating with the lingering grudges in my heart. But it's not enough. I need something stronger. Suddenly, Dell noticed an artifact that had been following him. When did this cloak get here? With his vast experience, the moment he saw it, he recognized it immediately. Wait, this is the Shadow Suit. During the Age of Heroes, Duke Berta of the Demon King's army used this ultimate artifact. Its ability gives form to shadows, making him a fearsome opponent. Without a second thought, Dell put it on. Let's try it. Seeing this, the other two flew into a panic. Dell. Very quickly, darkness enveloped him. In the hazy space, a strange voice echoed. Hungry. I'm hungry. So hungry. Dell remained calm. The water at his feet began to rise. So it's starting. This isn't an ordinary shadow. The one who wore it before could summon storms of shadows, controlling darkness like a living creature. To truly control it, the master must make the shadow entity completely submit. The shadow entity rose up from the darkness. It lunged at Dell. Looks like this won't be easy. His eyes widened, his focus razor sharp. Cold sweat trickled down his cheeks. From the outside, all they could see was a pitch-black sphere. Sevilla asked Ellen worriedly, It's been a while. Should we be worried? He rubbed his throbbing temples. If this continues, he could lose his mind and be devoured by the shadow entity. Hearing that, she panicked and was about to ask what to do. What then He raised his hand, quickly getting to work. We have to forcibly pull him out. Before they could do anything, a flash of light from within blinded them. The sphere of darkness slowly dissipated and Dell reappeared. Dell. He stood tall and proud, answering his father, Yes, father. Sevilla rushed over to him. Dell, are you okay? He answered quickly as if nothing had happened. I'm fine. Hearing that, she let out a sigh of relief. You had me so worried. Dell scratched his head, embarrassed. It just nibbled me a little. Meanwhile, Ellen was a bit curious. How is he completely unscathed? How can a child withstand such a powerful artifact? Dell turned to him a little nervous. Father, I have a question. Ellen instinctively replied, Go ahead. He allowed him to state his request, his face excited. Can I try the other ones? Both of them just stared blankly. They were completely dumbfounded by his innocent question. His face twitched awkwardly as he gave permission. Be my guest. His heart leaped with joy. Thank you so much, Father. And so began the days Dell spent exploring the family's artifact vault, Saxon, from early morning until late at night for the next few days. In the ducal family's training area, Helmut exclaimed in amazement. Young master, the suit you're wearing?
Could it be the shadow suit?
Dell smiled brightly and quickly admitted it. That's right. Helmut, worried, asked about his condition. That legendary item is notoriously difficult to control. Are you really all right, sir? Dell rubbed his face, finding it hard to explain. Oh, I'm fine. Besides it being a bit ticklish, there's nothing wrong. Helmut instinctively rubbed his head, confused. Interesting. Dell made up some random excuse. Maybe because it was lonely for too long, hearing that the shadow entity emerged. The moment it saw me, it latched on immediately. I guess it just wanted a companion. Helmut forced a smile and praised him, completely unaware that Dell was simultaneously stomping on the shadow entity. Why would you call that creepy thing lonely? You're too kind, sir. He pinned it down harder, feigning innocence. Thank you, Uncle Helmut. I have a favor to ask. Hearing that his uncle quickly asked, What do you need, sir? Dell stated the request he desperately wanted to make. I want to train in a real combat style. Helmut immediately dropped into a fighting stance, a thick wave of killing intent radiating from him. Very well. I will not disappoint you. Seeing this, Dell became a bit wary. Facing one of the continent's 7 great sword masters is truly beyond my capabilities. Just his aura is this intense. Helmut smirked, reassuring him. Don't tremble, sir. I will only use basic swordsmanship. I won't use my aura. But that unintentionally annoyed Dell. Holding back a knight must always fight with all their might. That is the knight's creed. My real purpose isn't the sparring match itself, but to practice using the shadow suit. Magic radiated from the cloak, beginning to envelop the entire training ground. The power of a weapon crafted from shadow entities will determine the true value of an artifact. Therefore, this battle will be a necessary test. The magic was unleashed. Helmut raised his sword, preparing to block the shadow blades. With just a single slash, he quickly cleared away the swarm of shadow blades. Witnessing this, Dell was even more impressed. Helmut shattered the attack with pure strength. Amazing. He was extremely excited, laughing loudly and praising him. Well done. Before his next attack, Helmut warned, Here I come. With his experience, Dell quickly dodged the attack, simultaneously jumping back and leaving a magic trace at that spot. From beneath Helmut's feet, sharp spikes shot up, but he still noticed them in time. He spun his sword, preparing for a blow that would shatter everything. A surprise attack. Interesting. Realizing the attack was aimed at him, Dell hurriedly molded the magic into a shield. When the slash was unleashed, the magical spikes Dell created were only heavily cracked, but otherwise fine. He braced himself against his uncle's heavy-duty power. Even though he was knocked back, Dell stubbornly planted his feet on the ground, so much so that he left marks. Helmut smiled faintly, feeling a little uneasy inside. He blocked it. I used enough force to slice a normal sword in two. So this is the difference between a normal weapon and a high-grade artifact. Without stopping, Helmut continued to charge forward. Let's go for another 10 rounds. That day, the knights who witnessed it whispered amongst themselves. Among them, none could last 2 exchanges with Captain Helmut. They felt an invisible wall between themselves and Dell. Time flew, and a few days later, at the time of departure, Elena was extremely worried for Dell. I'm going to talk to your father again. No matter how I think about it, I don't understand why he's letting you go to such a dangerous place. Dell comforted her by mentioning the extremely strong people involved. Don't worry, Mother. Father and Uncle Helmut will be there. With a mother's instinct, Elena was still not at ease. But what if something happens? What if you get hurt? Dell reached out and explained his issue clearly. Mother, I have to become stronger, so that one day I can shoulder the responsibilities of the Duke. By then, I'll need the strength to protect you. Father and Lace, too, so I really need this experience. Please, Mother, allow me to get stronger to protect you. Softened by Dell's convincing words, she decided to agree. All right. She called out as Dell mounted his horse. Go on, be safe. Sitting firmly in the saddle, he assured her, I'll be back soon. Early that morning, at dawn in the temporary base, Helmut checked and reported. Sir, the troops are ready to depart. Ellen nodded. Good. Then he closed his eyes and turned away. Dell, give the order to advance in my place. The boy was surprised. Yes, sir. Ellen turned back to look at the formidable army. He explained to Dell, Our proud cavalry, the Black Knights, will one day follow your orders. They are your knights. He was a bit hesitant, but still accepted it with pride. Dell's knights, not Han Sung's. This will be my first battle as a commander. That's right. This time will be different, he thought. Then Dell stepped forward to declare, The time to march has come. Advance, proud swords of House Saxon. After that command, all the soldiers shouted in unison, Yes, sir! Young Master Dell gave the command authoritatively, All troops to your positions. The thundering of hooves signaled that a new beginning had started. In this campaign, 250 cavalrymen and an elite commando unit stationed in Baek-San-dong, the garrison, also participated. They quickly arrived before a large waterfall, the target about 1,000 orcs. The orcs had crossed the mountains and were heading upstream on the Saxon River. To escape the cold and hunger, they would soon move downstream. We'll launch a surprise attack by crossing the Saxon River. There is only one way for 250 troops to quickly cross this deep river. From a distance, Sevia approached gracefully. Please step aside. She walked forward coldly, intending to create an ice bridge. Dell was overjoyed and called her name loudly, Master Sevilla. She came to support us personally, even though my master is someone who values moderation. In the blink of an eye, Sevilla created a strong and sturdy ice bridge. Once finished, Sevilla gestured for them to proceed. You may cross now. I wish you a victorious return. Ellen did not forget to express his gratitude. I am grateful for your assistance. Dell walked over to say goodbye to her. I'm leaving, Master. Sevilla watched his small figure slowly move into the distance. An indescribable stirring rose in her heart. Strange. How can a student make their master this worried? A while later at the orcs' temporary encampment, the hidden commando unit of the garrison fired ambush arrows. The arrows, tipped with blazing fire, flew straight ahead. Tens of thousands of arrows were fired, setting the sky ablaze. The arrows killed scores of orcs. Helmet gave the order, now. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd battalions. All the soldiers immediately assumed their positions, ready for battle. He signaled, charge in a spearhead formation. Helmet, observing from above, turned and asked, What do you think, young Master Dell? Dell thought to himself, each horse's hoof strikes the ground twice per second, which means they're moving at 40 kilometers per hour. Add the weight of the rider and the armor, the force of impact will be immense. Combined with a 3 to 4 meter long lance locking a position, creating a standard lance formation enhanced with aura, even the orcs won't be able to block this attack, he said aloud, truly overwhelming. Ellen also replied, Indeed. This is the pride of the ducal house's cavalry. Helmet smiled. We can't relax yet, young Master Dell. This is just the beginning. The orcs had assumed a solid defensive posture. The battle between good and evil was unfolding, incredibly intense. He announced, the ambush was a success, but it's not enough to wipe them all out. A voice replied. We will retreat at... Regroup and attack in waves. A signal flare shot up. The soldiers yelled, announcing the artillery's retreat. All units fall back. The warhorses immediately galloped back to the encampment. The orc seemed confused, not understanding what the righteous faction's next move would be. It growled in anger at the sudden retreat. Harris also quickly received the order and turned his horse to retreat. But the orc wasn't giving up. It hurled spears towards him. The spear flew with unpredictable force, knocking Harris off his horse. Dell, watching from above, was completely taken aback. A sudden realization hit him and he began to think seriously. A voice spoke up. Ellen said, Unfortunately, a knight has fallen. Dell said, Just like that, you're writing him off as a lost cause. The proud sword of House Jackson lies helpless before the enemy. He turned and questioned. Why are we just standing here watching? Ellen seemed to be hesitating about something. Helmet didn't make a move either. But the orc was already closing in on Harris. Dell thought to himself, riding down there will be too late. From this distance, I need to pierce the orc's thick hide in one shot. An orc's hide is much thicker than other monsters. I'll have to modify the ice formula, add a high-precision sniping formula, plus a trajectory lock for stability. Increase the completion level. Dell unleashed his spell Ice Card Magic Formula Labua Magnum. The ferocious orc overseer charged at Harris. Dell's spell is shot down from above, piercing right through its body. Helmet spoke. That was a pretty long distance, but the accuracy was on point. He asked in surprise, Young Master, where are you going? Ellen stopped him. Let him go, Helmet. Helmet exclaimed in surprise, My Lord Duke. He thought for a moment. To have created his own magic formula at this age? With that level of firepower. Ellen and Helmet just stood there watching his every move. He thought to himself, Dell's inner world must be nearing completion. Dell suddenly paused, pondering something. He realized, thinking to himself, the other orcs have regrouped. Dell stood there observing carefully. There were two problems. One, my body froze up in panic from falling off the horse. Two, the initial magic formula was too long and not optimized for actual combat. That's why you have to learn basic identities like A plus B. A times a B equals a squared minus B squared. I should shorten mine too, Dell calculated in his mind. For example, Ice 98 Magnum seems clunky and illogical. He thought, Still a bit long, huh? Dell exclaimed. How about this? After finishing his calculations, he focused intensely. He muttered, Ice Bullet. Harris, injured, couldn't fight back. His eyes pleaded for help. A sharp icicle from the distance pierced through the orc's head so fast it couldn't react. It was killed instantly. Harris called out, Young Master Dell, why did you come all this way for someone like me? Dell didn't answer, but gently dismounted. He approached him. He got closer and said softly, Don't worry. House Jackson, it never abandons a loyal sword. The other orcs still weren't giving up. They charged at Harris, making him cry out for help. Young Master, it had a ferocious look on its face, enraged by its comrade's death. It let out a loud roar. but Dell remained perfectly calm. He unleashed a spell. Shadow Blade. Instantly, streams of energy surrounded the orc. He gave a satisfied smile and muttered, "Absorb it." The energy streams immediately drained its strength completely. The streams continued to absorb relentlessly. The orc's body could no longer remain intact. Slowly, the streams absorbed everything until only its head remained, absorbing until only a skeleton was left on the ground. Dell chuckled smugly and said, "Still more." He then unleashed Ice Bullet, which instantly wasted the orc. Dell wiped away its blood and said, "It's done." Harris said in amazement, "Young Master Dell, I can't move my legs." The words made Dell pause, but he cheerfully lifted Harris. "Mission accomplished," Dell said softly. "I'll leave the rest to you, Uncle Helmet." Helmet immediately accepted the request. He gave the order to the cavalry squad. "Charge!" All the soldiers charged forward, shouting battle cries. For House Jackson. For young Master Dell. A while later at the Jackson military camp, a reporting voice rang out. "Dell, the mission to eliminate the orcs was a success," Ellen suddenly said in a serious tone. "I called you here because I have something to ask. Why did you jump into the enemy ranks alone? For what reason in the hell? Did you do something so reckless?" Dell looked nervous, being reprimanded. He was trembling, thinking, "Why am I getting chewed out for this?" Ellen continued to question him. "Explain why you jumped into the ranks alone," Dell explained. "Yes, Father. You said that the Knights of House Jackson would one day be led by me. I was only acting in a way befitting that honor." Ellen seemed satisfied, but he still said, "Your reason is too weak." This made Dell think, Father is known for valuing his knights above all else. Why is he acting like this? Dell then asked, "May I ask why you just stood by and watched a knight get killed?" Ellen answered, "The Northern Demon Lord's territory, ruled by House Jackson, constantly endures waves of monsters. The knights who stand on the front lines and raise their swords do not do so to be saved." Still confused, he replied, "But I expected you to save the life of a loyal knight." He shot back like you did. "Do you want the men who must think and act on the battlefield to hope that someone will come and save them? Do you think how many knights with that mindset could possibly survive? A knight in our domain that must constantly sharpen their blade to face the danger that is always around. Only when they have reached their limit do I personally intervene. That is the noble duty our family must bear." Dell suddenly realized, thinking to himself, "Indeed, this is a truth I can't refute. I understood this well in my past life. How could I have forgotten?" Ellen placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "However, the way you acted on your own convictions is commendable. Don't lose that spirit, Dell." Dell replied obediently, "I understand, Father." The light from outside shone directly on him, like a halo. Ellen lifted the tent flap and said, "Let's return to the castle." The story of the young heir of the ducal house who personally charged into a horde of orcs to save a single knight became the Empire's favorite topic of conversation. They say that the young master single-handedly cut down 1,000 orcs. One part truth, a dash of hype, the story spread like wildfire throughout the Empire. Even though the person in question was embarrassed as hell, this incident breathed a new air into the duchy. A few days later at the training grounds, everyone excitedly called out, "Young Master Dell has arrived. It's an honor to see you, sir. We welcome young Master Dell." This made Dell blush and say, "I told you all that wasn't necessary." Seeing this, Helmet was also amused and teased. "Puff out your chest, young master. For the future of young Master Dell, we must become even stronger. Is that clear?" Everyone shouted in unison, "Yes, sir." Dell found it strange and thought, why are they so fired up? Suddenly, Ivy called out from behind, "Young Master Dell, the guest from the OH family has arrived." Dell smiled in reply. "Ah, thank you, Ivy." Helmet also spoke up. "Shall we go, young master?" He thought, I'm about to meet a special guest, the Marshall family OH. The family head Bekdo the Sword Saint, once a great noble of the fallen kingdom of Tylonia. But when the Empire declared war, it seems something bad happened. The kingdom, the sword, Saint, and the Oat family were all burned to ashes. Dell thought Helmet's expression is a little different. He's probably thinking of the Sword Saint, the one who made him a knight. He thought to himself, this is going to be awkward. Ellen immediately spoke up. "You've come at the right time. Just finished training, I see." Dell replied, "Yes, sir." The butler entered and announced, "Young Master Dell, the guests have arrived." Suddenly a voice rang out, "You're receiving them with such respect." Then a mother and daughter entered. Dell thought they came all this way without any servants. The woman bowed her head and introduced herself. "I am Vanessa OH, my respects to Duke Jackson." A voice replied, "Welcome." Vanessa turned to her daughter and said, "This is my daughter, Charlotte OH." But Charlotte didn't seem to like it, showing her attitude and calling out, "Mother." That attitude made Dell wonder, what's with the attitude? She reacted strongly. "Why do we have to bow to them?" Seeing this, Vanessa chided her, "Charlotte, what are you saying?" But Ellen remained calm and said, "It must have been a difficult journey for you both. Dell, "Could you escort Lady Charlotte around the castle for a bit?" He obeyed. "Yes, sir." Dell quickly extended an invitation, saying gently, "Lady Charlotte, would you care to accompany me?" But Charlotte stubbornly maintained her attitude, gritting her teeth and saying, "Don't." She swatted his hand away and yelled, "Touch me!" Dell, not understanding what was happening, froze for a solid 5 seconds. Ellen was also bewildered by Charlotte's attitude. But Charlotte, with her strong personality, kept that arrogant expression on her face. This seemed to infuriate Ellen, who said, "Shameless imperial nobles!" Seeing this, Vanessa immediately said, "Charlotte, what are you doing? Apologize to the young master this instant." Her mother's scoldings annoyed her, and she turned and walked away. Dell still called out gently, "Wait, Lady Charlotte." Vanessa expressed in a serious tone, "Please forgive my daughter's insolence. She's not normally like this. But due to some recent events, her temper has become unstable." Hearing this, Lucia asked sympathetically, "What happened?" She explained that not long ago, Baron Brandon Burt became the new ruler and was assigned to our territory. He is called the Holy Knight of the Empire, so you must have heard of him. His fame is matched only by his infamy. There's a reason he's called the Pig King. It's rumored that in order to produce a talented heir, he decided to sow his seed in all the talented swordswomen, including my own underage daughter. She barely escaped with her life. However, that horrific memory cannot be erased. Vanessa pleaded desperately for help. She said, "I want to protect my daughter, but as a fallen noble, my power is limited. I beg of you, please take my daughter as a handmaiden for House Jackson, so that man can never lay a hand on her again." Dell tried again, calling out, "Lady Charlotte, do you even know where you're going?" But Charlotte said coldly, "I don't care." She thought to herself, "Why did I end up at the training grounds?" Charlotte suddenly softened and asked, "Is your hand okay?" He replied cheerfully, "It's fine, don't worry." She suddenly gripped her sword hilt and said, "Good." Charlotte thought to herself, "I wonder if he's holding a grudge about earlier. Even if he's a bit snarky, he's still just a kid." She suddenly drew her sword and said seriously, "In that case, spar with me." Charlotte frowned and ordered, "Dell of House Jackson, draw your sword." This action confused Dell, who exclaimed, "What?" He thought, why is she so impulsive? Charlotte coldly pointed her sword at Dell and said, "Let's spar." Dell calmly replied, "There has to be a reason first." She retorted, "I've heard the rumors. A prodigy so great he single-handedly defeated 1,000 orcs to save a fallen knight." Hearing this, he was too embarrassed to say anything. Charlotte declared, "I will defeat you, the one called Peerless in the Empire, and prove to the world that I am stronger than you. Then I will prove that I can protect my family from that man." Dell asked curiously, "That man?" She answered, "Baron Brandon Burt, the Holy Knight." Hearing that, he gritted his teeth and thought, "I can't forget him. That imperial dog who backstabbed me. I never expected to hear his name here. Sharing a common goal, she could be a good ally. But first the kid needs a reality check." He coldly turned his back on her, much to Charlotte's confusion. He turned back with a look of contempt. "You're just an ignorant brat." After saying that, Dell drew his sword and said, "Come at me with everything you've got." Hearing that, she became furious. "I was planning on it," she said. With that, Charlotte immediately launched a powerful attack. But to Dell, it was still a light attack. He stood his ground, defending solidly. Seeing this, she pulled her sword back and launched another attack. Charlotte's face was incredibly determined. Her eyes were sharp and cold. Dell seemed quite surprised by her strength. Charlotte suddenly realized, thinking an immediate counter blocked with his wrist. And there are signs of him using aura, channeling it into a sword too big for his body. Just as a mage creates mana, through the circles in their heart, a knight accumulates aura to push their body beyond human limits. Charlotte thought, "He's a true knight." She gave a sly smile. She pulled her hand back, preparing an attack. The attack was lightning fast, but Dell dodged it as usual. The fight between them was extremely intense. With determined eyes, she thought, "At this rate, I'll gain the upper hand. When I was born, my father was no longer in this world. But every night my mother would tell me stories about him. She said I had to protect our family in his stead, as the proud daughter of the sword. Even when the kingdom fell and the family declined, Charlotte's sword never stopped." Charlotte was tense, sweat rolling down her face. She thought, "Then why?" She was furious. "I can't even touch him." Charlotte continued to unleash attacks, but she still thought, "Something feels off." Once again, Charlotte used all her strength. She lunged forward. She thrust her sword straight at Dell, but still couldn't get past his defense. Charlotte wondered to herself, Dell gently swung his sword, creating a light counterattack. It knocked the sword from her hand. Charlotte was bewildered, thinking, "I'm the daughter of the Sword Saint." The sword stuck into the ground. Disappointed, she spoke. "Why can't I win?" Dell calmly replied. "Because you are not the Sword Saint. Your pride in being his daughter isn't wrong. But as you are now, you can't protect your family from that man. The Holy Knight's sword is 10 times stronger than mine right now." Hearing this, Charlotte calmed down and asked, "Then what should I do?" "What do I have to do?" Dell said gently, I, Dell of House Jackson, swear on my family's name to protect the House of OH until the day you are strong enough to defeat him yourself. I and House Jackson will be your shield. Charlotte, confused, asked, why? He explained gently, because your sword is worthy. Swear to become the sword of me and House Jackson. She quickly wiped her tears and said seriously, how could I possibly refuse? I, Charlotte O, swear on my honor as a knight. Though it seemed like a childish promise, the determination was enough to be considered an oath. That evening in the Duke's office, at the request of Lady O, Charlotte will become a handmaiden of House Jackson, Ellen said in surprise. I didn't expect her to accept without any hesitation. Did something happen between you and her? Dell answered truthfully. We made a promise. Father, I have sworn to protect the Oat family on the name of House Jackson. He then asked, you didn't use our family's name out of mere pity, did you? He replied firmly, no, Father. Ellen asked further. Then what do you wish to gain from this? Dell expressed the only bloodline of the Sword Saint. Her talent is extraordinary. We made an oath. What I want is for the new Sword Saint to raise her sword for our family. Ellen seemed pleased with his son's thinking. He said good. Dell thought to himself, the last bloodline of the Sword Saint, and is now under our roof. That's enough to deal a heavy blow to that Brandon Burt. At that moment in the old capital of Teotonia, a shout echoed. Damn it! A wine glass was slammed onto the ground, shattering into pieces. Brandon Burt yelled in anger, those arrogant fools! Those idiots dared to act first. The soldier replied, I apologize. He slammed his hand on the table and yelled, you idiot! You can't even catch one little girl, the soldier said. We sent assassins, but they disappeared before reaching the Jackson estate. We suspect Charlotte O.H. herself took them down. Brandon Burt shut his eyes tightly, his face ferocious. He walked away thinking, useless fools. Brandon Burt placed a hand on the table thinking, those were the good old days. He recalled the image of himself stabbing Dell in the back. Brandon Burt caressed his sword and said, don't you agree? Holy Sword Durandal, my lovely bride. Just wait a little longer. He schemed. I will create your perfect heir no matter the cost. Brandon Burt gave an order, contact the guild. Send men to the duchy. He smiled slyly and said, price is no object. Bring me that Charlotte girl. While getting used to the ducal castle, Charlotte diligently trained. Strict handmaiden training and daily sparring with Dell. In the middle of the sun-scorched training ground, Helmet called out, ready. Dell, sword in hand, smiled confidently. Of course. Meanwhile, Charlotte's expression was still very determined as she looked at him. Helmet smiled gently. His eyes closed calmly. Then Dell and Charlotte crossed swords as Helmet said, begin! Dell's sword technique was extremely skillful. Charlotte's face remained fiercely determined as she looked at him. He continuously slashed at her with his sword. In the tense situation, Charlotte still tried to block the blows. Helmet was watching the match between them intently. He thought, is this really a kid's sparring match? They aren't even knights yet. The match was intense. But that killing intent and speed, damn. Suddenly Dell's gaze faltered for a moment. He pulled the scarf from in front of Charlotte's eyes. He was pulling the scarf that covered her face. Her pupils sharpened as she prepared to strike. Just as Charlotte's and Dell's swords were about to clash, Helmet stopped them. That's enough. He calmly praised her, you fought well, Lady Charlotte. She scowled. Don't flatter me. Where did I go wrong, Sir Helmet? He slowly asked. My lady, do you know the most fundamental core of wielding a rapier? Is it? She hesitated. The thrust right? Helmet shook his head. No, the core is your 2 feet. It's your footwork. When young Master Dell dodged your thrust and closed the distance, you should have retreated to find an opening with your rapier. Bending your arm kills its greatest strength. If the blade isn't steady, all your accuracy is lost. To be honest, you need to tear down and rebuild your entire foundation. At first, Charlotte was shocked. What? Helmet continued. I've been watching for a while. Your stance and footwork are too sloppy. She grimaced. That's because I've never had a proper teacher, Helmet said slowly. You have me now. We're going to fix that. Awkward thrusting posture of yours. Her face turned red with embarrassment. Awkward. He laughed heartily and patted her head. Just teasing. You're too cute, my lady. Dell watched from the side, thinking, I wonder how fast she'll grow under Uncle Helmet's tutelage. The strongest Grand Swordmaster in the 6 lands. I'll have to work harder so Charlotte doesn't catch up. The process of creating a mana circle is quite similar. You have to feel the mana flowing in your heart. Wait for a solid mana circuit to form. Then carve that circuit into a complete magic circle. The problem is this process can take up to 15 years. Sevia asked, puzzled. You've already completed the 2nd circle. Dell nodded. Yes. In this world, the rotation speed of a mana circle is measured in RPM. A 1-circle mage typically has 300 rotations per minute, which is 300 RPM. My current stats, Circle 1, 2000 RPM. Circle 2, 400 RPM. To open a new circle, you need at least 300 RPM, which means I'm already qualified to open the 3rd circle. Now that I have 2 circles, let's test it out. Strengthen the basic bullet. Increase the bond between the ice bullet's molecules to increase its size and hardness, and simulate a large caliber barrel to amplify the rotation count and firing speed. On Dell's fingertip was the armor-piercing bullet spell. His power was erupting violently. The energy exploded in a bright, powerful swirl at the center. The wall in front of him was blown to bits. Was shooting an armor-piercing bullet always this easy? Sevia clapped and praised. "You learn so fast, my lord." Dell said respectfully, "It's all thanks to you, master." From saving the knight from the orcs to Charlotte's development. A child who knows how to use power correctly. Dell was lost in thought about her. Terrifyingly talented. But in reality, it creates more trust than fear. Sevia hugged and comforted him. Truly a student to be proud of. Dell's cheeks suddenly turned bright red. He thought nervously, "This is a little too close." Dawn. The inner courtyard of the ducal manor. Dell grimaced, thinking, "Master startled me earlier. She probably still sees me as a kid. Focus, now is not the time." His expression changed, becoming serious again. Time to train. In the middle of the courtyard, a giant ice wall suddenly appeared. Ice wall rise. A powerful stream of light shot from Dell's palm. Chunks of ice flew out like bullets continuously. Ice bullet, Y12 gauge. They turned into round ice bullets like water spheres. The crystals exploded, releasing powerful energy. Dell stood firm, controlling a defense against the incoming water spheres. He smiled from behind an ice shield. "Next time I'll try slug shots." Suddenly a voice from afar cut through the air. "Dell?" It was Charlotte, her face covered in sweat. "You're training here too?" Dell nodded. "Yeah, you too." "Lady Charlotte, you—" she said softly. "I'm just practicing the footwork." "That's her helmet taught me." Dell asked, "You like swordsmanship, huh?" Charlotte stammered a reply. "Huh, oh yeah." For a few seconds neither of them spoke, then she said, Hey, I'm sorry for acting so impulsively. I was too rude to Dell. No, young Master Dell." He nodded. "Yeah, you were pretty rude. But I'll let it slide this time." "Just this once." Charlotte cheered up. "Really?" He nodded. "Yeah, so don't be so stiff." She said softly, "Okay." They both leaned against a tree trunk in the cold air. "The weather here is great. Even if I swing my sword all night, my body cools down right away." Dell looked at Charlotte's slightly more relaxed face. "Is that so? It's nice to know someone else thinks the same way." The scene of Charlotte and Dell talking happily together. Lucia smiled and said, "Time flies, doesn't it? Our son is already this big." Lewis added, "They look so good together, don't they?" Lucia nodded. "We'll have to keep an eye on those two." It seems what you wanted is already falling into place. A mother's duty is to guide her son to be true to his feelings. Not long after, on the outskirts of the duchy, the people bowed politely, saying, "Thank you as always." "My lady?" Lucia smiled gently. "It's nothing. Please continue to take care of yourselves." The slums where beggars and the homeless filled the streets. Mother often came personally to hand-deliver aid to them. Every week, she would bring food necessities and offer job assistance. Dell watched her thinking, "Starting this year, Charlotte and I have been coming with Mother too." Charlotte on the side rushed over. "Slow down, what is it, kid?" A boy in commoner's clothes pulled her hand. "Help me, please." The boy looked at Charlotte and pleaded desperately. "My mother is in critical condition." The boy sobbed uncontrollably, crying out loud, "Please, you have to help me." Dell ran after Charlotte and the boy, thinking to himself, "This is extremely suspicious. Making us leave our night escort and run into a complex web of alleys. Not asking an adult for help, but targeting Charlotte specifically, that's suspicious enough." There was a figure on the rooftop watching. Dell ran below. He saw him. "He's from the Thieves' Guild. The Holy Swordmaster must have sent them." "I knew it. Their target is Charlotte, but this is a little obvious, isn't it?" The boy stopped and said, "Wait here a second, I'll go get my mom." Charlotte hesitated. "Oh, okay." Suddenly a man slowly stepped out, chuckling. "Well, well. What are noble kids doing in a dangerous neighborhood like this? Our business is only with the little lady there. I'd advise the young master to just stay quiet and go home. You'll get hurt if you try to pull anything." He smirked sinisterly and said loudly, "I, Dell of House Jackson, have sworn to protect the daughter of House O'Hare from thugs like you." John snickered mockingly. "My, what a gentleman! But you'd be better off taking a look at the situation. Looks like you need a reality check, kid." Charlotte turned back frightened and whispered, "Dell, I don't have my sword." He smiled reassuringly. "It's okay, don't be afraid. This is the perfect opportunity to test out my new Shadow Yi technique. In the name of self-defense, of course." John's entire gang was rushing towards Dell and Charlotte from all sides. He quickly controlled his power, pulling the entire group into it. John shouted angrily, "Dodge it, you idiots!" Dell smirked to himself. He noticed quickly his level must be pretty high. His powerful vortex of black and purple light sucked in the entire gang, making escape impossible. This was all part of Dell's plan. "I just discovered this Shadow Yi technique after setting 2 circles. It turns shadows into a parasitic form. They move on their own and turn their targets into zombies." John's face showed a hint of fear as he watched everything unfold. His men were being easily taken down by the vortex. What is it doing? Suddenly, a giant man appeared behind Dell, rubbing his stomach. The giant growled loudly. So hungry, so very hungry. The men caught in this vortex were terrified. It's the last zombie, John shouted. What are you waiting for? Kill it now, he growled, grinding his teeth. Even if he's the Duke of Jackson's son, that one good slash will be the end of him. John's feet moved, gathering momentum for a jump. He moved so fast he was just a blur. A green light emanated from John's palm. No one can block my mana-infused shadow technique in a narrow alley like this. But Dell's dark magic shield blocked his projectile. Damn it! Surprised, John gritted his teeth, took his sword, and leaped from above. The shield suddenly opened a small gap. Water orbs shot out continuously, hitting John's body. Double barrel, 12 gauge. They flew at high speed, piercing through his body as blood splattered everywhere. Charlotte, hiding behind a wall, watched Dell with concern. The giant was frenziedly devouring John's men. Dell watched him struggle to stay on his feet. He won't die from a single shot. Aura users are tough. Blood trickled from John's mouth, his eyes sharp. Not yet. The moment he spoke, Dell's dark power sliced John's body to pieces. The giant continued its frenzied attack, digging its sharp claws into the men. Blood rained down. So hungry? Dell coldly retracted his dark power. Charlotte. He looked at her, huddled in a corner, terrified. Are you okay? She stammered. No. The last remaining man ran forward, after seeing his comrades wiped out. He took one step before a blue light pierced his ankle. Ice spear. He screamed in agony while Dell remained completely calm. Help me. He fell to the ground, writhing. I'll tell you everything I know. Dell's voice was stern. Everything you know? The man stammered. Yes, I'll tell you everything. Suddenly, as he spoke, a water orb pierced his forehead. Dell's face was bored. I've lost interest. The last remaining man of the group was also eliminated, easily by Dell. Charlotte looked around in fear. This is the true face of House Jackson that people fear. It's also the power that protects you. Dell asked, seeing it up close, are you scared? Charlotte nodded. A little. But it's okay. You fought to protect me, right? She had once knelt before him. I made my decision when I took my oath. If your family is my shield, then one day I will be your sword. Thank you for showing me what a true future is. I will become even stronger. Dell was surprised by her words. His expression changed. Part of the reason Dell accepted Charlotte was out of regret for what happened to Badeo 24 years ago. He slowly extended a gentle hand towards Charlotte. Dell smiled, thinking, so for Charlotte to choose to become Dell's sword? She smiled happily, blushing, and reached her hand towards his. Charlotte thought carries a deeper meaning than Dell might realize. Meanwhile, at the Count's mansion, Brandon Bird looked furious. Brandon's face was grim. Damn it! I know it's difficult to invite the Count here, but I must invite you to the Duchy to ascertain Duke Ellen's intentions. For the sake of the friendship between our two houses, please do not refuse this invitation. He fumed. This is a summons from the Duke, demanding accountability. Even the great holy swordmaster cannot defy it. A few days later at Castle Jackson, Ellen sat on his throne and said slowly, I am pleased you have made the long journey here, Count. Brandon stared at him intently, a flicker of fear in his eyes. Ellen continued, I didn't expect you to arrive so soon. Please forgive our humble reception. Brandon awkwardly placed a hand on his chest. Nothing is more urgent than a summons from the Duke, Your Grace. His gaze shifted to Dell and Charlotte. These little eels. After the recent disturbance in your duchy, an air of concern is spreading throughout the Empire. A kidnapping in broad daylight, no less. I believe I know why you have summoned me. But as a loyal sword to the Emperor, how could I possibly be involved in such a shameful incident? A dark power, a vortex of black and purple light flew towards Brandon. He tried to resist it with his sword. What is this wind? The bodies of Brandon's two attendants began to decay. Ah, my lord, please spare us. Brandon retreated in fear. Even the holy knights of Magdalene can't resist this. His face contorted in fear as he looked around. This magic is... Ellen coldly cast the spell, a vortex of black and purple light. High-level, dark magic void storm. Brandon yelled, Duke! The Duke ordered sternly, Kneel, holy swordmaster! The old man said harshly, Duke, do you understand the gravity of your actions? Ellen continued coldly, I advise you to listen carefully, Count. Brandon gritted his teeth in anger. There will not be a second warning. The old man thought fearfully, Damn it, the Black Duke has a point. But I never expected him to go this far. Brandon's knees buckled. The Duke spoke authoritatively, As you know, we summoned you here for the sake of peace. But if you dare to lay a hand on the children of House Jackson, again, I will wipe out every last remnant of House Brandon Bird. I demand you carve this into your heart. It was a long journey. You must be tired, Count. Why don't you rest and warm yourself? The old man lowered his head and said quietly, I am deeply grateful for your generosity, Your Grace. But unfortunately, the situation does not allow me to stay in your domain any longer. Ellen nodded. I understand. In that case, I pray your journey back is a safe one. Dell smiled sinisterly. What father showed Count Brandon Bird, one of the Emperor's most loyal retainers, will become the spark that turns the Empire into a torch. It's just a small spark for now, but it won't be long. The fire will catch and our duty will be to cut off the Holy Swordmaster's head. When the world learns that, the Holy Swordmaster was forced to kneel before the Black Duke. The very pillars of the Empire will shake. In the Duke's office, Ellen boldly removed the cloth cover to show Sophia what lay beneath. She hesitated, asking, "This is," Ellen explained. "These are the bodies of the Thieves' Guild members who attacked Dell." Sophia's face was horrified. Dell did all of this. The body parts were scattered, riddled with holes, guts spilling out. For the first time in her life, Sophia had to question her own teachings. Ellen said slowly, "As you can see, guiding Dell's extraordinary talent down the right path will require your wisdom, Lady Sophia. I want to offer you the position of chief advisor." She seemed to understand his meaning. It meant no longer being just a tutor, but coming under the service of House Jackson. He continued, "Dell needs you, Sevia. Even I cannot raise the boy alone. With your help, things will change." Sophia hesitated for a moment, then gathered her courage and replied, "I understand. Understanding how that child sees the world is of the utmost importance right now." In the grand hall of the magnificent castle, time passed. Dell's 10th birthday arrived. Unlike last year, this time representatives from the Emperor's faction also attended. Suddenly, someone walked up to Dell. Most notable among them was the young man with red hair standing before him. "Welcome, Marquis Eurus?" He smiled sinisterly. "A pleasure to meet you, young Master Dell." A moment earlier into the grand hall, "Oh my goodness, look at this food. Wow, truly worthy of the House of Jackson. What a beautiful sight. It's hard to believe we're in the Northern Territories." "Haha, indeed." Worrying about a duchy so far from the capital is a waste of time. Dell stood intently, listening to every word from the guests. He glanced over. The central nobles of the capital, the so-called Emperor's faction. They are the largest and most influential power in the entire empire. Acting in the Emperor's name, the reason they are at tonight's banquet is crystal clear. It's a veiled warning, a message from the throne that they will not tolerate any insult to the Holy Swordmaster. And the messenger chosen to deliver that message is standing right in front of me. Eurus bowed formally. "You must be the young Lord Dell. He's Marquis Crimson." "Eurus, a pleasure to meet you," he thought. "He's the Red Magic Tower Master, a seeker of the flame, of fury and power within the confines of order. The mages of the Red Magic Tower are famous throughout the Empire for their belief that might makes right, and so they have never hesitated to become the enforcers of mad ambitions. I myself was once the subject of all sorts of modification experiments by the Red Magic Tower." Eurus spoke grandly, the prodigy of House Jackson. "I hear you possess a magical talent, unrivaled in the entire Empire. Rumor has it that to protect your family's knight, you single-handedly annihilated an entire horde of orcs at only 9 years old." Dell gave a confident smile. "Truly the son of the Duke." He also bowed politely. "I hope you have a pleasant evening, my lord. Having a big birthday party like this every year is exhausting. Honestly, I'd rather be training with Charlotte right now. But she's serving as Elena's handmaiden. And besides, if rumors spread that the Holy Swordmaster's daughter is sparring with me, I'm afraid it would bring trouble upon her." Suddenly, a shrill scream came from behind Dell. Petro shouted, "Stay still, you untouched little maid!" He frowned. That scream. Could it be? Eve started running towards the commotion. Eve was sobbing. "Please, sir, I beg you, I'm a servant of House Jackson." Petro angrily scoffed. "A lowly maid like you dares to invoke the Duke's name. Everyone's busy celebrating the young master's birthday, aren't they? Instead of wasting time standing around, wouldn't it be more fun to enjoy the company of a woman? If you resist any further, I'll slit your throat." He started pinning Eve against the bushes. "Be a good girl now." Dell suddenly appeared from behind, saying loudly, "What do you think you're doing?" The man turned around, stammering in panic. "Young Master Dell," Petro holding a knife backed away. "Young Master Dell." He advanced slowly. "What are you doing here?" The man stammered, Well, He then asked, "Have you ever enjoyed the pleasures of a woman, my lord? You look so young." "You probably don't have any experience, do you? How about I, Petro, personally teach you a thing or two?" Eve was held in a chokehold. "Young Master Dell." It seemed the man was drunk off his ass. "I'll show you a real good time." Suddenly, Dell summoned his magic. "Don't worry." His eyes were sharp. "I'll get you out of here right now." In a world built on hierarchy and order, no one would have expected him to strike first. A sharp ice bullet suddenly flew past Petro's ear. He collapsed to the ground, instantly releasing Eve. Dell looked on coldly with no intention of backing down, although confronting one of the Emperor's men is definitely not a wise choice. The man screamed, "What do you think you're doing? Young Master Dell." He commanded, "Kneel before me." Petro couldn't believe his ears. "What?" Dell said sternly. "Did you not hear me?" He pointed at the ground. "Kneel and apologize to Eve now." As she said, "She serves our family. She is a member of House Jackson. Petro gritted his teeth in anger. This Jackson brat. Young Master Dell, it is regrettable, but today I stand here as a representative of His Majesty. To insult me to protect the honor of a lowly maid is to insult the Emperor himself. He replied calmly, then let me ask you this. Does His Majesty take pleasure in having his noble's servants assaulted? The man frowned. Petro, sitting on the ground, stammered. How dare you speak so recklessly? Dell enunciated each word. This is my final warning. Eurus, witnessing the scene, couldn't help but chuckle. Kneel, he laughed excitedly. What an interesting development. Ellen suddenly shouted, Dell, what is going on here? He replied. This man attempted to assault a maid of House Jackson. He continued to shout. And for that, you show such insolence to Lord Petro. The man nodded. Yes, Duke. The young lord overreacted. Dell didn't back down, shouting, Did I give you permission to stand? Our esteemed guests from the capital all bear the responsibility of acting on His Majesty's behalf. Yet this man dared to commit a shameful act attempting to assault a lowly maid and single-handedly tarnishing His Majesty's reputation. Therefore, I could not stand idly by and watch such a shameful act go unpunished. Eurus suddenly burst out laughing. Ha ha, well said. What a quick-witted young man. Indeed, everything you've said is true. To think that someone entrusted with a mission on behalf of the Emperor would commit such a vile act against a maid? Petro was terrified. Lord Eurus! A spark of fire appeared in his palm. You scum! Petro's face went pale with fear. He got up and ran screaming in terror. No, spare me. At that moment, Eurus's demeanor became incredibly fearsome, a sinister smile on his face. A vortex of fire flew from his palm towards the fleeing Petro. He was incinerated by the flames engulfing his body. It hurt so hot. Eurus spoke slowly to Dell. You were not wrong. It is my duty to exterminate the vermin who dare to disgrace the Empire and its throne. I look forward to your future, young Master Dell. Dell's face was grim as he gave him a sharp look. After the incident settled down, the Emperor's faction departed, returning peace to House Jackson. Then one morning after the party at Dell's castle, Eve stood respectfully by his bed and said gently, Time to wake up, young master. Dell, still sleepy, slowly replied, Thank you for waking me. She said shyly, It was nothing, sir. He asked, Is there something you want to say? Eve hesitated. Thank you, my lord. It is my honor to serve you. Dell thought, was she just hesitant to say that, I've lived in 2 worlds now, but this feeling is still so unfamiliar. I'll have to get used to it. His expression softened and he smiled cheerfully. Thank you. I am the eldest son of House Jackson. I understand the weight of that name, and I will use it to its fullest extent, as long as the Empire falls. Ellen began sternly. You are very smart, Dell, but your behavior lately has been strange. Dell's expression remained calm. Why do you speak that way? Dell answered slowly. If the otherworldly hero and the holy swordmaster Badeo hadn't both died in that battle, the next place the hero's sword would have pointed would be the Duchy of Jackson. Duke Ellen was surprised by his words. Those are blasphemous words, he asked sternly. How can you be so sure? Dell's demeanor changed. Because I heard of the Empire's conspiracy against House Jackson in my past life. The Empire discarded the hero. They feared that when the chains of that golden gift broke, the hunting dog would go mad. Even though the otherworldly hero had defeated the Demon King, the Empire didn't pull out the evil from the Demon King's territory by the roots. On the contrary, they issued insane decrees, like turning the Demon King's land into royal territory, and unilaterally forcing our family to make sacrifices. They even granted that land to you, Father. As long as the darkness on that land isn't completely purified, our blood will continue to be shed. Furthermore, to those within the Empire and beyond the northern borders, we House Jackson are seen as a dark family. Just as they discarded the hero, they will try to eliminate threats from within, that is, those who could potentially harm them. Ellen asked again, discarded the hero. How could you? Dell interrupted. This is just a deduction and argument. I've pieced together from the records I've read. Logically, nothing else fits. Officially, the hero died with honor after the battle with the holy swordmaster Badeo. It's not surprising. After all, very few people know the truth about the hero's death. If my hypothesis is correct, then the Empire is just a giant that wants to crush all smaller nations. He looked straight at the boy, deep in thought. The boy's wisdom is beyond his years. So what do you think House Jackson should do? He replied slowly. House Jackson cannot coexist with the Empire. Suddenly, Dell's face darkened as he emphasized his point, making Ellen's expression grim as well. We must destroy the Empire. The air in the office became suffocating. Dell, he growled. Do you understand what you are saying? He replied calmly. I don't mean we should raise an army and start a war immediately. Dell hesitated for a moment, then said, In 15 years. His father asked in surprise, 15 Dell. He explained, right now, anti-imperial factions across the 6 territories are pushing for independence. Even vassals like you, Duke Jackson, are afraid the Empire will turn its sword on them. The economy is in recession. Banditry is rampant. And even though the unification treaty of the 6 territories has been signed, the consequences of the war are only getting worse. By then, we need to have built up our forces to protect our house from the Empire. We will support the rebel factions in the regions. And I have laid out the plan to overthrow the Empire. As the sun set behind the magnificent castle, Dell finished his explanation and asked, "What do you think, Father?" Suddenly, he just smiled sinisterly for a moment without saying anything. Then Duke Ellen laughed loudly. "Your talent truly has no limits." He said confidently, "You see a vision that I cannot. You are truly my son. From this day forward, you will not just be the eldest son of the Duke, nor just a 10-year-old child anymore. People will see you as the heir, who will lead House Jackson." Dell was surprised. "Father," Ellen said gently, "as the head of the house, I will listen to and value your words." Dell smiled, thinking, "I've been waiting for this day for so long. The day I have enough power to wield the authority of House Jackson with my own hands." Ellen smiled and continued, "Don't hesitate, Dell. What will you do for our family?" He replied, "You said you would treat me as an equal right, Father. In that case, allow me to take the Mage's Challenge in the Necropolis." A Mage's Challenge. It's a type of competition that determines a mage's rank, where they face off against the Guardians of the Magic Tower. Defeating a Guardian of a higher rank will raise the challenger's status, and the strongest will receive the title of Tower Elder. The one at the very top is granted the title of Magic Tower Master. His father asked again, "Do you really want to go to a dangerous place where you could lose your life?" "It's still too early. You haven't even completed your 3rd circle yet," Dell said confidently. "I'm close." Ellen was worried. "Normally one has to be in their early 20s to reach 3 circles. Even for someone like you, going from 2 to 3 circles is difficult." Dell's attitude was resolute. "This decision is for both myself and for House Jackson, Father." His father was surprised. "Why?" Dell explained meticulously. "If I can prove myself through the Tower Challenge, my position as heir will solidify your own standing, Father, and I will gain a reputation that transcends mere gossip." "I see," Ellen asked gently. "Is that why you want to take on the Tower Challenge?" Dell's attitude was now extremely confident and determined. "Yes," his father nodded. "Very well, I will leave this to your judgment." Dell was excited. "Thank you, Father. I will prove it to you." A few days later, in the vast dead city of Necropolis, someone was already standing before the city gates to welcome them. The occupants of the Duke of Jackson's carriage stepped out. "They've arrived." The servants bowed respectfully. "It is an honor to welcome you, Black Duke." Dell's face beside him was uneasy. He thought, "Did I go too far again?" Whispers began to spread. "Look, it's Duke Jackson and young Master Dell is with him." "Ha-ha, I heard he's a magic prodigy, the likes of which the Empire has never seen." "Is it true? But he doesn't look too well today, does he?" "No, I'm serious. I heard his swordsmanship is on par with the knights in the Duke's own household." Velik smirked. "How ridiculous." "It's me, Velita, the new valedictorian of the Academy, the one destined to win this tower trial," Tom continued. "That noble kid looks so weak, like a light touch would knock him over." Eris appeared, bowing respectfully. "It is an honor to meet you, Tower Master," Ellen said gently. "It's been a while, Eris." She smiled. "It is a true honor to serve you, young Master Dell." Eris is the head tower administrator, handling all administrative tasks when the Duke is absent. Ellen turned to his son and said, "During the trial, she will be the one to assist you." He nodded. "Yes, Father." Dell approached cheerfully. "I look forward to working with you, Eris." She guided him. "Yes, young master, this way, please. There are a total of 59 graduating students awaiting you. All of them will be participating in the trial with you." A door suddenly opened right in front of him and Eris. Inside were countless people. These were the ones who would be competing in the trial. "Greetings to everyone present in the tower. I am Eris, head administrator and trial overseer. I will now explain the first trial of the Dark Magic Tower. Please check the necklace around your neck, the life necklace. This trial is a survival format, a life point battle. Each necklace contains a protective shield magic to defend its owner, and 1 life point. When you land a hit on an opponent by controlling the corpses scattered across this battlefield, the opponent's necklace will activate its shield and then shatter, meaning they are eliminated. The attacker who delivers a valid strike will gain 1 life point on their necklace. Any contestant who reaches a total of 3 points will advance to the next floor. Finally, anyone using magical artifacts will be considered cheating and will be immediately disqualified from the competition. Dell thought, so those are all the rules. What a quick way to weed out the weak. Suddenly his gaze sharpened. However, Velik suddenly shouted, "That monster! How is he already a 3-circle mage at such a young age? I told you we should take that monster down first." Tom asked hesitantly, "Are we allowed to attack him?" Velix reassured him, "Don't worry. The moment we step it in here, we all became rivals." Dell chuckled to himself. "He's pretty confident, huh? Let's see if his skills match his words." The group of students all opened their magic circles, aiming them at Dell. Begin the trial. Felix began to wave his palm, which pulsed with power. He summoned the corpses that were appearing before him. They started to grab weapons and charge towards where Dell was standing. A large corpse gained momentum, wanting to attack him from above, but he quickly created a dark shield to block the blow. They were surprised by Dell's handling of the current situation. Behind him appeared a giant corpse many times larger than him. Since when? The giant corpse stood firm, growling loudly and unleashing its power. Felix watched as his own corpse was being frozen. This is water magic. The giant corpse leaped forward with its sharp claws. Don't tell me he's a dual element mage, because Felix's corpse was frozen. Dell's corpse easily took it down in one hit. Felix roared, "Idiot, you dare lay a hand on my undead army?" The giant corpse was wrapping an arm around Dell's body protectively. He laughed and said, "It's useless. I've reinforced them with ice armor." Dell continuously controlled his corpses, making them fight fiercely. Felix pointed his finger, using water magic. "Isn't that against the rules? You're only allowed to use necromancy and corpse manipulation magic. All other types of enhancements are forbidden." Dell replied, "True. But there's no rule that forbids me from enhancing the undead with ice magic. Is there? If the trial hasn't been stopped, then I guess I'm right." Felix still showed no signs of stopping. "You two, block those undead and focus on a direct attack on him." More and more corpses appeared from Felix's magic circle. "Overwhelm him with numbers." Dell's expression changed. He hesitated. Come to think of it, using magic artifacts is forbidden too. He carefully observed each corpse that was trying to attack him. In that case... Suddenly, Dell started running. This is the only way. He easily dodged them with incredible speed. Dell's attitude now was not fearful, but extremely confident as he charged straight ahead. In the blink of an eye, he had evaded the corpse's attack. In his hand, he gripped a sword tightly. "Gotcha!" Successfully disarming it. With his other hand, Dell swung a power-filled fist, punching their arms. He quickly got a firm grip on the weapon. The giant corpse stood its ground, Dell swinging the sword in a fierce counterattack. Tom was terrified. No way. How was my undead soldier cut down so easily? Felix's jaw dropped. That sword isn't normal. He reforged the bone to reinforce the blade's durability. A purple light was glowing around the sword. The corpse began the battle. By swinging its sword down at the ground, Dell quickly jumped out of the way, flying into the air. His face now showed extreme confidence in his fighting. The corpse was easily defeated after just one of his strikes. Felix grimaced. He even beat my last undead. How can a mage wield a sword so skillfully? Dell took everyone down in a flash, and then approached Felix. The boy stammered, begging, "Please, young Master Dell, I surrender." He laughed excitedly. "Come on!" Dell laughed loudly. "It's not like you'll really die, so what's there to be afraid of?" As soon as he finished, Dell hit him on the head with the flat of his blade. Felix, dizzy with a bump on his head, muttered, "Monster." Everyone sitting above cheered. The results are in. Young Master Dell passes the trial alone, with 60 life points. Dell looked up with a proud expression. "Watch closely. This will be the start of my journey." The monster aggressively raised the magic in its hand. Second-level tower trial. Defeat the guardian creature known as the Flesh Golem. Usually, the surviving contestants from the first level would team up to take it down. But the one who broke that traditional rule was Dell. I eliminated them all. The rules are different from the first level. Now I can use any magic system. But the no artifacts rule still applies to me. That's more than enough. This is the perfect opportunity to test the limits of the third circle. The golem threw a powerful punch at the ground, causing it to explode. It paused for a few seconds as if waiting for the dust to settle, a smug grin on its face as if to say, "I'm the best." But a surprise awaited it. Dell's magic appeared covering its entire sturdy arm. The golem's face froze, and he stood proudly amidst the wreckage, completely unscathed. Dell cast a dark magic spell with a triumphant smile. Accelerated decay. Ellen, watching from the outside, was curious. That's praised with admiration. The young master's magic is truly unusual. Why did he choose to make it decay instead of just destroying it? Dell quietly watched the golem's body leave this world. He thought to himself, in my past life when facing this type of monster, this strategy had both high precision and firepower. It was called biochemical warfare. He withdrew his magic, covered his nose, and clicked his tongue in disdain. This stinks. I wonder if they even get what they're watching. The grotesque process of biochemical warfare is now being simulated through dark magic. That day, Dell passed even the level 10 test, setting a new record. He was given 4 days of rest before the 11th trial. Meanwhile, to recover from the massacre on the first level, a retrial for the other 59 contestants was approved, excluding Dell, of course. That same night, after the trial, Dell stood dazed by the fountain. Suddenly, someone called him from behind Dell. "You did an amazing job. As soon as he saw her, Dell happily called out, "Master Sophia, it's all thanks to your teaching." Sophia nodded with satisfaction. "That makes me very proud to hear." Right after she said that, Dell froze as if something was caught in his throat. "Master Sophia, will you go on a date with me?" She was so surprised she had to repeat the word, "a date." While she was feeling flustered, Dell had already suggested, "There's a festival happening downtown. Let's go." Helpless Sophia could only indulge him. "All right, fine. Let's go." She thought to herself about this. A date. Well, that's not exactly wrong. Oh dear, Dell must have misunderstood the word date. Over here he was thinking differently. Is this the wicked thought people always talk about? At the Necropolis City Festival, the crowd was bustling and lively. In a secluded corner, Sophia asked Dell, "The trial was difficult, you must be tired." He shook his head, declining. "I'm okay. Besides, I still have a few days before the next one." She smiled gently. "Oh, well, that's good then." In the middle of their conversation, they both suddenly stopped. The atmosphere became strangely quiet. To ease the tension, he changed the subject. "The moon is really beautiful tonight, isn't it?" Sophia looked up into that direction and agreed. "Yes, it really is." He let out a frustrated sigh. "Suddenly, I don't know what to say anymore. But this silence is quite comfortable. It's always been like this with Sophia. Probably because she trusted me from the beginning. But I find myself wanting to get closer and closer." A few days before Dell reached the third circle, he finally understood what it meant to face one's inner world. Dell's nose started to bleed from overexertion. He pinched his nose resolute. "To break through the limit, I have to overflow the mana from the second circle. Only by enduring this chaotic mana can I maintain the third circle." Intertwined magic circles gradually appeared. Suddenly, a silver sword from deep within his inner self welled up from Dell's heart. He looked at it with a thoughtful gaze. This black sword, right now Dell, was standing in the middle of a snowy landscape. He looked around, his mind relentlessly searching for answers. "This place is..." Suddenly, Sophia's voice came flooding back. "When you deeply calm your mind, the inner world will open." He lowered his head, understanding her meaning. "So this is it. This is my inner world. This is Dell's world of perception. There was nothing here originally. Just an absolute void. And in that empty world, Master Sophia reached out her hand to me. Maybe that's the reason. She was the one who brought light to my world." Thinking this, the words suddenly tumbled out of his mouth. "Master, I like you." Sophia couldn't believe her ears and wanted to clarify. "What did you just say?" Dell stood with his hands on his hips and declared loudly, "I said I like you, Master Sophia." She chuckled softly, because in her heart she had always seen him as a child. Sophia bent down and hugged Dell tightly. "Is that so?" She responded to his words with a warm, deep voice. "I like you very much too, Dell." He had to accept her reception of his feelings in a way he hadn't wanted. "Thank you, Master." Living two lives has its perks, I guess. A few days later, on a peaceful morning at Dell's residence. Inside the level 11 tower trial, Dell lamented dejectedly. Still no progress with Sophia. She probably just sees it as a childish crush from an 11-year-old kid. "Time to focus on the test for now." Eris stood up and announced, "The format of the trial is one-on-one combat. The winner will advance to level 12. He held a grimoire in his hand as he greeted him. "It's an honor to face you, young Master Dell. He is the three-circle master Albert Rosen II. Don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're a child. The level 11 trial allows the use of all types of artifacts and magic. That means the life necklace is not guaranteed to keep you alive. The artifact restriction has also been lifted. I don't have to hold anything back anymore. I'll crush him instantly, to make an impression about the power gap." Before the referee could finish his sentence, the first move was made. The match will be, right at the start of the fight, Albert unleashed a critical blow, making it hard for Dell to defend. He even taunted, "You're not as cautious as I am. Unlike the Academy rookies you've faced, your winning streak ends here." Albert used magic, creating multiple arrows aimed at Dell. This is called Shadow Arrow. Annoyance was already etched on his face. He continued to provoke him. "Let's see how you block this one." With that, Albert launched all the darts towards Dell. He continuously dodged one attack after another and successfully got away. Dell was mad because he was playing dirty. Technically, even if it's just by a second, launching an attack before the signal should be a foul. But the judges show no sign. They're curious about my abilities. This damn meritocracy. Finally, Dell concluded with a firm statement. "This is why I hate mages." After a moment of relentless attacks, Albert started chanting something to summon. "Arise, my creations. You who have pledged eternal obedience to me, servants from a night deeper than the blood moon." It made Dell want to dig a hole and bury him in it. So cringe. What kind of lame incantation is this? But he is indeed stronger than a normal rookie. Dell continuously dodged the attacks from the minions. Albert slicked back his hair, already acting like he was hot stuff. "How long are you going to keep dodging? How can you beat me like that?" The minions swarmed towards their only target, Dell. He couldn't stand still any longer. His magic began to speak up. Dell quickly sent all of Albert's minions back to where they came from. He smirked, thinking victory was in his grasp. Out of tricks. The magic he had been holding back was finally unleashed. The minions' bodies swelled up and exploded. A series of explosions created a chaotic mess, disrupting everything. Albert declared without hesitation, "Today I am the winner, young Master Dell." The smile vanished from his lips, replaced by panic. Wait, since when? Where did he go? While he was still dazedly searching, a dark shadow rose from behind. Where is he? Dell appeared. Right there, mocking Albert. You look pretty panicked. A smart sneak attack. The magic enveloping him was demonization. Fear was clear in Albert's eyes after he spoke. But it'll take more than that to defeat me. From beneath his feet, shadow figures moaned. Hungry, so hungry, can we eat? Can we? They begged under Dell's mysterious smile. Please let us eat. As soon as he agreed, they pounced. Go ahead, but don't get too full. The other students watched with chills running down their spines. The sound of horrific screams echoed throughout the arena. It almost completely devoured all the essence in his body. Albert, looks like they were too hungry and got a little overexcited. He repeatedly pleaded for his life. Seeing that, Dell wasn't too heartless and ordered them to back down. The result is clear, the announcer's voice boomed. The winner of the first round is Dell. He stood with his hands on his hips, eyes closed, whispering. Behind him, the other opponents trembled in fear. Now then, they all turned pale, thinking about what would happen next. Who wants to go to round 2? No one wanted to face Dell anymore. I surrender, I still want to live. Dell smiled slightly as things were going according to plan. From the third circle onward, no one in the entire tower could match Dell. All but the first round were overwhelming victories. Dell continued to hone and shape his 3 magic circles, while defeating each guardian one by one. It wasn't until he reached level 20 that a formidable opponent appeared. This one is called the Headless Knight by all. The Headless Warrior. The Headless Knight is the creation of one of the Dark Tower Masters. He's a completely different kind of opponent. Even if it's young Master Dell, you won't be able to go any higher. Dell raised his hand and magic flowed from it. It would be boring if everything went as planned, but his pale eyes widened, as if signaling that the monster had awakened. The stream of magic began to encroach upon the knight. The atmosphere made everyone tense. What's happening? Down here. The knight, for some unknown reason, bowed before Dell. Look. Everyone in the stands was completely astonished. The Headless Knight is kneeling. Who would have known? But inside Dell's inner world, something else was happening. A respectful knight offered his own sword for him to decide its fate. Dell didn't hesitate to command, "End yourself," and so the battle ended without any obstacles. Dell gave a pained smile to the knight. So loyal that you would abandon your duty as a guardian. Suddenly he realized the problem was more than just that. Oh crap. Dell looked up at the stands, witnessing so many people frozen like stone. Maybe I went a little too far. I mean, it's understandable to be shocked. A creation that betrayed its creator and swore loyalty to me. That alone is enough proof of my ability. On par with a Dark Tower Master. I didn't mean to go that far. Without thinking further, Dell left. He had proven himself enough. Time to go home, I guess. People behind him whispered. Where is he going? Is that the exit? Why has he left already? Dell said to himself. Even though I can keep going, there are still limits I shouldn't cross. Above here is a place even monsters find scary. It's something no one knows about yet. And so Dell's trial came to an end. Outside, all the students were lined up neatly, and the tower trial as well. The Magic Tower Master has arrived. The entire Dark Tower stood at attention as if for inspection. Both nobles and tower masters expressed their loyalty. Every mage in the Dark Tower showed their respect to both father and son. Thanks to Dell's outstanding performance, the Northern Territory once again united under the Duke's flag. A few days later in the Northern Empire, the territory of Duke Jackson. The Knights were using all their strength to wipe out the entire monster horde. In a single move, they had almost completed their task. While attacking, they shouted the slogan, "For young Master Dell, for the House of Jackson." For successfully completing the tower trial, Duke Jackson had assigned Dell as the commander of the Orc Extermination Squad. Wherever his extermination squad went, monsters were wiped out. It was a mission that not just any 10-year-old could receive, yet no one doubted Dell's leadership abilities. And just like that, the heir of the Duke began to unify the North. Early morning, a few days later, at his family's estate, Dell stood tall, reporting to the Duke. "We have killed 145 orcs." Ellen got straight to the point. Cavalry losses. Based on the numbers he reported. 3 with minor injuries, no casualties. Ellen asked further to gather concrete evidence. "Did you use magic to protect them?" Dell was blunt. "No. This was entirely the result of the Jackson family's swords." After finishing, Ellen didn't forget to praise him. "Well done, Dell." Helmut turned to brag to the Duke, "Your Grace, the young master." Dell has truly gotten used to commanding a large cavalry unit. Dell modestly scratched his head, refusing the compliment. "It's all thanks to Sir Helmut's guidance." He remembered the past few days with excitement. Uncle Helmuth taught me swordsmanship, tactics, and military strategy. Helmuth placed all his hopes on him. At this rate, it won't be long before the young master can lead in a territorial war. Though excited, Dell always waited patiently. Territorial war, huh? I'm always looking forward to the next stage. A while later, Scarlet swung her sword as if a match was underway, and her opponent this time was Dell. Scarlet continuously unleashed powerful spinning sword strikes, but unfortunately for her, he managed to dodge in time. It didn't stop there. Dell circled behind her, surprising her so she couldn't react in time. A second later, Scarlet managed to swing her sword up to block his thrust. The two fought from one end of the court to the other, neither giving an inch. In a split second, Scarlet almost landed a hit on Dell. He praised and encouraged Scarlet. You've improved a lot. She looked annoyed, not accepting the praise. It's still nothing compared to you. He laughed heartily. Am I teasing you too much? Scarlet was too annoyed to bother. Anyway, you're already a 3-circle mage, and you've passed level 20 of the tower. Ever since then, it's been young Master Dell this and young Master Dell that. Doesn't it get annoying? Seeing her like this, Dell wanted to comfort her. Don't worry, he encouraged her. You'll get stronger too. Hearing that, Scarlet's face turned red. Dell thought to himself, she's only 10 after all. Scarlet is already excellent by any standard. Then, though very embarrassed, she still tried to act superior. Hey, don't treat me like a kid. Dell corrected her, but you are a kid. So are you? Dell pointed to himself and asked, Me, I'm already grown up, you know. She waved her hand dismissively. Yeah. Whatever, forget it. Very quickly, their match ended. Now then, young Master Dell. Helmuth sat across from Dell, laying out the general's game pieces. Today's lesson, the piece on the board couldn't help but catch his attention, will be the hammer and anvil tactic in combat. When the cavalry is positioned on one or both flanks, as if predicting the outcome, he said immediately, the key is the cavalry. The cavalry needs to break through the enemy's flank and surround them. Meanwhile, the infantry will advance. Helmuth confirmed exactly. The hammer and anvil tactic gets its name, because it's like placing iron on an anvil and striking it with a hammer. This is a tactic that relies heavily on the cavalry unit. Dell stroked his chin, judging silently. Indeed, this is only feasible with the Black Knights. No matter what world it is, the fighting style is similar. Suddenly he realized something. Oh, right. How is Scarlet's training going? Helmuth stroked his chin and thought for a moment. Scarlet's progress, huh? Although it can't compare to yours, it's still quite extraordinary. But the young lady has already established a foundation in swordsmanship soon. She will master the aura and swordsmanship of Jackson. However, there is one worrying thing. Dell guessed what he was about to say. The compatibility between Jackson's swordsmanship and ours. Right mages can refine mana into magic through the circle in their heart. Knights, on the other hand, refine mana through the aura conversion technique. Mages build magic towers to master their philosophy. Knights establish orders to pass down their sword skills. Among them, the Black Knights of the North are like war chariots charging straight ahead. The strength of the Night Crow Knight Order is a prime example of a fighting style that crushes the battlefield with pure power. The problem is Scarlet's swordsmanship. It focuses more on speed and fluid movements. Wielding a fast and agile sword, along with that talent, she could reach the lowest level of the 7 great swordmasters. But she'll never be like the first sword. A sword swing that was both powerful and graceful was unleashed. The head of the 7 great swords, the position her father once held. Thinking this, Dell was a bit distracted and blurted out, "Flower sword." Helmuth understood, his face full of sadness for her. If only that swordsmanship still existed. Helmuth recounted the disappearance of the secret technique. However, it was lost, along with the fall of the Night Kingdom. Dell stared intently at the horse piece on the board, his heart filled with compassion. Is it really gone from this world? After that, Dell's days became even less restful. While balancing monster extermination with his studies, his reputation grew stronger and stronger. The time had come to show the fruits of his training. Ellen, having just heard the shocking news, exclaimed, "What? The neighboring territory under Baron Parker has declared war to claim ownership of your copper mine." "What?" The merchant confirmed. "That's right." Dell rubbed his chin, confused. In this world, the borders between regions and countries are not clearly defined. But for a low-ranking noble to challenge a high-ranking noble is unthinkable. As he reported, he took something out of his pocket. "If I refuse to hand it over and accept the declaration of war, Count Brandon Bird has sided with the Baron. Plus this letter, he's ready to send the Holy Knights of St. Mark de Lena in exchange for a portion of the mine's profits." As soon as they heard, both father and son understood what was happening. Dell gritted his teeth, angry. "So that's how you want to play, huh?" He still hasn't forgotten the humiliation from that day. "In that case, we'll give him a taste of his own medicine."